its sold to Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, and it would be shameful, I think you're saying, to, if they change their tune even moderately, to instantly go, oh, all is forgiven, let's move past this, I'm going to start voting for you along
kind of, because basically I think that the premise of your attitude here, which isn't, I'm not saying that you're so pro DeSantis, you just love the guy. I'm not saying that, but like, I am seeing a kind of like, I'm going to see how things play out, kind of analysis here. And I'm going to,
you're right. I'm going to see how things play out.
Yeah. I know. And the reason I'm saying that is I think that the underlying premise to that attitude is this notion that Trump is like the vast majority responsible for where you're at as a party, since you still identify as a Republican, when I think the Republican Party and
like how Blackbeard does the haha, your laugh is an odd repetition. Okay, I need to see a fucking. I feel like Tiny would argue it way better than Pisco, though. I mean, we'll see. Hello, Magnus.
Yes, no, but they're culpable actors. They're not just going along for the ride. In some ways, like, yeah, they were supplanted from the powers of the ultimate authority, but Lindsey Graham is still chummy with Trump, and they're getting their favors, and they are getting stuff as part of this bargain. And even to this day, they're using their power to the extent that it still exists, and it does still exist, to marshal support for the president. So that's all right now.
Can I use the Department of Education as an example for how Republicans have cynically used Trump?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so within education has largely been complained about within Republican spheres for a long time because they think that the outcomes suck. They think that public education sucks. They don't like their kids being, unless they want to shill out tens of thousands of dollars for private school, they don't like that their kids are compelled in order to learn a federal education. They also think it's like too liberal, too gay, too progressive, too this, too standardized, et cetera, et cetera. And so there was a push, which actually originates from, I think, fascist thinking, by the way, which is effectively, there's like two things that you can do with a political thing. Within economy of energy, you can either reform an institution or you can leave an institution. And what Republicans decided is that they were going to leave the institution. So they're either going to homeschool, they're going to private school, they're going to do something else, and they're going to gut the existing institution so it's as ineffective as possible in order to fuck over Democrats. That's what Republicans largely decided to do. Now, there's reasons for why they think what they think. I think they made a political mistake. But within the DOE, there are people who genuinely believe that the federal government is teaching their kids to be gay, trans, ignore science, whatever talking point you want to come up.
Which is insane, right? I mean, it is literally insane.
Regardless of whether or not it's insane or delusional, they genuinely, earnestly believe that the world is better off if the DOE.
Okay, I don't like where this is going. Okay, all right. So every single time somebody says like, whenever somebody says like, oh, like you can't deny that this is what they genuinely believe. Like, no shit, Sherlock. You can say that about anything. Like, some motherfucker probably genuinely believes that putting like their dick inside of their daughter is a good idea to check for her hymen, whether or not it's being pierced. Like, yeah, like, does that mean that you're gonna go like, well, excuse me, this person isn't like, this person genuinely believes this, motherfucker? Okay, the fucking local schizophrenic in like a fucking asylum probably believes that their delusions are real, like genuinely. Like, what the fuck, bro? Like, hello? Right. Like, so versus so stupid. Like, what a stupid nothing. Like, it's just such a nothing thing to say. Like, it's completely wasted words. Like, okay, all right.
We is gutted. And so for them, what the Trump administration is a huge victory. Number one, probably because of the repeal of Roe versus Wade. Number two, because of the destruction of the Department of Education. And so as a result, while maybe Trump's an ephebophilic sex trafficking rapist, maybe Donald Trump has killed hundreds of thousands of African people. These people can't even conceptualize Africans as people. They don't even really mathematically, oh, there's human beings who are dying all over the world because of my actions. It does not compute. I've talked to these people about what's happened. It does not compute to them. They're not Americans.
Okay.
I don't care.
You're saying that
that's their entire
that
attitude. And so to them, gutting the DOE and repealing Roe versus Wade, they already have the two largest conservative cultural victories in decades. That's how they feel about Trump. And if they have to go around with they'll ignore the ephebophilic sex trafficking ring. But let's say that Donald Trump is an ephebophilic sex trafficker. They'll come up with a way to sweep that out of their
Bro, say that 5 times fast. What the
mind
fuck?
as well.
If that's your view, and listen, I don't think that this sex trafficking ring, I'm not as confident as you that it's been established to go beyond Epstein and Maxwell and maybe a couple other people.
Would you
I
sit on
have not
what?
taken the
What the
position
fuck are you
that
talking
we are
about?
able to allege it applies.
What do you mean? Sit on for what? Can you elaborate on that?
To other third parties beyond those, a couple perhaps, beyond Maxwell and Epstein. But if that's the case, and if that's your view of what Republicans are willing to do, why would you reward them by considering such awful people to get your vote? Right? Like, this is a character issue at this point. It's a character flaw.
Let's differentiate. Are we talking about representatives or are we talking about the populace?
The sanctimonious.
Because
I love Connor and Pisco together. Connor has a really bad takes on everything he vote for Vance, but I love and Pisco and Connor collab. Well, because it's like every single time it's just Pisco trying to elaborate to Connor how schizo he is about philosophy. Pisco are the different parts of us. No, I don't get what you're talking about. What do you mean by sitting on? What do you mean by sitting on?
some of these
What do you mean by
actions, the
that?
most egregious actions that I think are so egregious that they threaten the social fabric of the republic. January 6, 2021, the 2022 constitutional tweet, deploying the military into American cities, violation of 4th, 5th, and 8th Amendment rights of non-citizens being deported to Central and South America. I think that these people are politically pragmatic. I don't think they command the cults of personality and the charisma that Donald Trump does. I don't think they're going to be able to get away with it. And so effectively, if JD Vance and if Ron DeSantis were technocratically competent people who were proposing good legislation, and you gave me an option between them and Mamdani, I would choose them over Mamdani.
JD Vance.
And maybe even Harris, if Harris had dog shit.
You know what? I know exactly what you mean by sitting on, okay? No fucking weird fucking gooner type shit, okay? Bye.
Policy.
Forever.
JD Vance supports all these things that you say you hate of the new administration.
But I agree with Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg was asked about JD Vance, and he's like, what do you think about JD Vance? Do you think he's a fascist? And he said, I think that JD Vance is whatever he needs to be. When he needed to be a Silicon Valley Democrat, he was a Silicon Valley Democrat. When he needed to be a never Trump Republican, he was a never Trump Republican. When he needed to be Trump's biggest brown-nosing, blow-jobbing, sycophant piece of shit, he was that. And so JD Vance, in my opinion, he does go where the wind blows.
Doesn't that make him more malicious in a sense? Right? Like,
oh yeah, he's a huge piece of shit. He's like a sociopathic piece of shit who's gotten hundreds of thousands of people killed.
Yeah, but you might vote for him, and that has to do because you think that he's less sincere than Mamdani.
Is stuttering so bad? Well, guess what? Okay, what do you want me to do about it?
Mamdani could be totally sincere and still have horrible policy.
Yeah, no, but like in terms of this people issue, in terms of the character issue, you're taking someone who is so transparently self-motivated and interested only in obtaining higher office for its own sake, and
Wouldn't vote for Vance, by the way. They talked about it later, and Connor agreed that he weighted the importance of the Constitution compared to his other criteria too low. Okay.
You're, I guess, comforted by the fact that you think that they're not going to be able to accomplish anything. You don't grant that to Mamdani in the context of a mayor. Not that Mamdani is going to be able to run for president. We're just speaking hypothetically, of course, because he's not a natural-born citizen. But like, you're granting that Mamdani is almost certainly more sincere than these people in that he wants to get power to improve the life, like in his mind, to improve the lives of these individuals. So even if it were the case,
Mao Zedong thought he was doing the right thing. Joseph Stalin thought he was doing the right thing. Pol Pot thought he was doing the right thing. Yeah, now, you might say that Mamdani is a democratic socialist who's operating within a democratic system, and I'll take that as not historically analogous. But you have to understand that the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Who has seen that? Radiant.
Sincerity and earnestness doesn't really matter if what you're trying to accomplish is not good.
JD Vance said that he was willing to abide by Trump's plan of the false elector scheme, and he would have used the ceremonial, unconstitutionally, the ceremonial role of the vice president in reading out the votes of the different states for president. He would have used that for Trump's own ends. And I think that you believe him, that he would have done that. Yeah,
let me explain this real quick, and hopefully this will help you out a little bit, because I think that considering that I've made character arguments against Trump, this might seem hypocritical, but that's okay. I think when I make character arguments, I'm not making character arguments for their own sake. I'm making character arguments because I think they inform policy. So as an example, when Donald Trump is willing to lie in order to steal the casino in Atlantic City, I think that just shows that he's a conniving, lying piece of shit. When Donald Trump cheats on his pregnant wife with a pornographic actress and then uses his own lawyer in campaign funds in order to pay her off, and not even pay her off, lie about paying her off so she doesn't even know that she's being paid off, and then use his own lawyer to do so, and then reimburse with campaign funds, it tells me that not only is he manipulative, he's manipulative, lying, and he's cheap, which is like almost a sin in and of it to itself when you're a fucking billionaire. But anyways, so these are character arguments, but it's because I think it informs his policy. Recently, I don't even necessarily think of, I don't think that seeing who JD Vance was in 2016 and 2017, I don't even think it's explanatory to believe that JD Vance is a human. I don't even think of him as a human. I think of him as the avatar of the will of the people.
So what was your first language? I don't know.
Who are supporting him, which was largely Peter Thiel at the time, and is probably going to be Peter Thiel once Donald Trump is gone. And so JD Vance is not a human being. JD Vance is an amalgamation of aligned interest. And so if that aligned interest is good for the country, I will vote for JD Vance. If that interest is bad for the country or substantively worse than a Democrat, then I will vote for a Democrat.
Why didn't you make this calculation of Trump? Why wasn't that
because
positive?
Not only was Trump a terrible person, his amalgamation of aligned interest is disastrous. And I've made that argument too.
It's any worse than JD Vance's?
Yeah.
In what material fashion?
JD Vance says what he needs in order to be good with the Trump administration and maintain.
And Trump doesn't say.
You asked Trump. Question, I'm going to answer it. Like it or not, Donald Trump is a power.
I can't believe like Connor is like a never Trumper, but he's not like that. Doesn't include the vice president. I assume that when you're talking about like being a never Trumper, I assume that you're being entire administration of that. Mind-boggling.
Broker within the Republican Party. He gets to decide who's in the club and who's not. So staying on Trump's good graces is how you obtain power in the Republican Party, but it's not going to be in 3 years. And as far as I know, JD Vance is he's a Trojan.
Also, like, Connor's just so weird. Like, his takes are so weird. He just has, like, very bizarre takes on everything. I think his autism probably shaped the way that he thought about the world, and it just makes no sense. It's just, God, it's just
horse from Silicon Valley by Peter Thiel in order to deregulate Silicon Valley. That way the Thielites and the techno-feudalists like Elon Musk can make fucking genetically modified cat humans that they can have sex with in their basements and or colonize Mars.
Like, what is he on about
once again,
you say these outlandish things, but you also call JD Vance an outgrowth. Okay, I get it. No, the point I'm making, though, is you said, I made a calculation that Trump maybe is worse as a person, but also his amalgamated interests are like worse than JD Vance's. But like, let me just address that. I don't see why you would have that inference. I don't know in what material way Trump's amalgamated interests are different in nature than Trump, so as to make them less appealing than JD Vance's. If anything, right? Trump at least is missing that as close connection to Peter Thiel, etc. And further than that, like, think about Trump's total inconsistencies on almost a daily basis. You want to talk about someone who is being moved by amalgamated interest and flattery. The dude said that Mom.
He changed his position after another chat with Pisco. There was another chat after this.
Donnie's going to be a great mayor. Who just like weeks ago, who's saying he's a communist, Islamic fucking terrorist jihadist.
The whiplash is part of the problem, though. Maybe I turned on my politics brain and I'm being way too reptilian right now. I don't know. But the whiplash is part of the problem. So, for instance, and you saw this in the market, by the way, when Donald Trump declared tariffs, we took a temporary hit, particularly in the markets where the tariffs were gone. And then we saw a rally as people said, okay, I can still make money this way. But then Donald Trump would come out 2 days later because he had a conversation with somebody and he would change the tariffs and then the market would hit and then it would recover. And then he did it again and again and again and again and again. The unpredictability is part of the problem.
But that's what you're saying is characteristic of JD Vance.
Be like that.
Wait, what? What are you talking about? There is one thing worse than unpredictability, right? There's one thing worse than that, and that is predictable evil, right? If evil is consistent, wouldn't that be worse than an unpredictable evil? You're like, yeah.
How not? You're saying that JD Vance will do whatever he needs to.
JD Vance commands a charismatic cult of personality and a lack of ideological vision.
Isn't this how he described Vance?
That he would whiplash his own policies back and forth repeatedly?
Lack of ideological vision, that's your assessment of JD Vance, not mine. That's your assessment of JD Vance.
Well, I think that there's power brokers who are going to step in once Trump is gone, who will provide a coherent vision to JD Vance that he will try to lead. He'll use MAGA rhetoric, but the policy
Why is he standing so hard behind JD Vance? I don't understand. I don't understand this obsession with JD Vance. I don't understand. I don't get it. This is not, it's not computing to me.
Execution is going to be totally different.
And the individuals who have identified are Peter Thiel and
Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, that wing of the MAGA movement. They'll use the rhetoric of the MAGA movement. They'll use the rhetoric of Trump in order to seize power, but it's largely going to be like techno libertarian shit.
These are disgusting, out of touch degenerates who have like these visions of grandeur, delusions of grandeur, of colonizing Mars. Never going to happen, and like spreading their seed to as many different
vision, son.
What's that?
I said, damn, you lack vision, son. You think we can't colonize Mars with some robots?
Not in the next 1,000 years.
I think we could do it in the next century, but that's okay. Continue.
You're delusional.
Want to talk about politics, or do you want to talk about colonizing Mars?
You're not going to be able to terraform Mars.
Bro, he is. What, dude? Is he okay? Like, genuinely asking, is Connor okay, bro? Changes his position here. Yo, hey, thanks for the link, buddy. What the fuck is he on about right now?
In the next century, it's a delusional idea that like we can't terraform. Okay, what would you do? How would you colonize it? How would you make it livable for people? Biodome it. And what the effects of gravity over a long period of time, the lack of any protection from these ultra gamma whatever radiation spikes all the time, the fact that like the air there's no fucking air debris, that's there's no like a significant atmosphere. This is not an easy project. A biodome, give me a break. Why to what end? Why are we doing this if we can't make it a hospitable place for more people? We're spending all these resources. It's a childish fantasy, and we should start, if we're going to start at all, by terraforming.
We can't even take care of our own planet. We can't even take care of our own planet. The planet in which we were born, Jesus Christ. The planet that we were born with, that we can't take care of ourselves, that is perfectly made for us, in which we have thrived as a species, in which it is perfectly made for us. Earth was made for us, and we are made for Earth. Okay? We can't even take care of our own fucking planet that is made perfectly for us. How could you try to take care of a planet that is not made for us in any way while also maintaining it? You are so out of your mind. It's not even funny. It's delusional. Also, frankly, it shows where your thinking is, right? Because if you're delusional to think that Mars could have like a human colony in the next 100 years, then frankly, I'm a little bit worried about your talks about politics, mate.
How about Iran, where they don't have like reliable water right now? There's a crisis. Why not like the Sahara on Earth? We can't even do that. So this whole thing, these are
exactly. We can't even take care of the people on our world, right? Why? How could we set that? How could we set that as a goal when we can't even take care of people here?
Delusional. Like no metahumans in the context of like Peter Thiel, or they're babies, man babies, like Elon Musk, who every time he has a temper tantrum, he is doing unhinged shit and like high on ketamine half the time. And you want to give the country to these people by electing JD Vance on your own lights.
Compared to the alternative. Depends on what the alternative
Which is like a standard Democrat like Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, the standard Democrat like Gavin Newsom. Kamala Harris was a standard Democrat. Kamala Harris was tweeting about gun control 30 days from the election, which was so fucking dumb that I can't believe that you guys can't get your head out of your own ass in reference to firearms. And then not just that, also the what is it? It's like the tax on unearned capital gains or whatever, a wealth tax.
Over the fraud people.
Freak out and turn pink about it. But at the same time, you have to understand how many center left rich people abandoned Kamala Harris at the last minute because she was proposing a wealth tax.
I understand that, right? I have no reason to believe. I have no reason to believe that proposal.
A source?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't believe the proposal either. That's why I checked the box next to Kamala Harris's name. I also didn't think that she was going to be able to get into the country.
Do you think America spending money and resources to land on the moon is unethical because we could have used that money for taking care of our own planet? I feel like that's kind of crazy. No, I think there's something good about like human like empowerment and human like ideals and like having sites that is just beyond the earth and shit, right? But I think that landing on the moon is entirely different from like colonizing Mars, right?
I didn't mean that. I meant like I have no reason to believe that significantly is on the election. My intuition is if we pulled the wealth tax, that most Americans would support it. That's my intuition, because whenever you ask Americans,
working class Americans would support it. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't have I have no reason to think that Kamala Harris' support of a wealth tax impacting negatively her results in the election. I have no reason to think that is an unpopular policy.
But this is exactly okay. So this is where like you don't believe or.
Also, yeah, true. And again, it's not about the it's not about the money. Okay? It's really not about the money. It's about allocation and policy. Okay? We have enough money, okay? We are the fucking dude, we have no excuses when it comes to money, okay? It just comes down to policy and political capital and all that shit, okay? Because yeah, it's not a problem of money. It's a problem of politics.
A couple of weeks ago, you didn't believe that we have principal differences. This is where the rubber's going to meet the road, okay? I was raised to believe and sincerely believe that the average American is a fucking dumbass who should not be led.
Yeah, and like you represent that though.
Around power, okay? We elect technocratic elites. And by the way, our technocratic elites kind of suck right now. They do suck. They probably always sucked, but they especially suck right now because we can see what they think on Twitter, and half of them are dumbasses too, okay? But we're supposed to elect technocratic elites who craft policy that is good, not just for them on an individual basis, but it's good for the economy, it's good for Americans, it's good for the country, it's good for the national interest. That's the ideal of republicanism. But I feel like Republicans have abdicated their responsibility within the past 2 or 3 generations, where all they've done from a technocratic policy standpoint is they've deregulated and cut taxes, and they've gone too far and they've fucked up our social fabric. But I will remind you that this wasn't always the case, real quick. Teddy Roosevelt was a Republican. He set up the national park system.
Dude, Teddy Roosevelt was a Republican and he set up the national park system. And how important is the national park system in comparison to the well-being and healthcare subsidies of the United States, of the average civilian? Like, are you autistic? Are you retarded?
He was responsible for enforcing the Monroe Doctrine.
To
he was responsible for American military and diplomatic hegemony within the Western Hemisphere.
Now talk about Lincoln.
Richard Nixon, probably in a lot of people's eyes, one of the most like malevolent presidents ever, was a Republican who established the EPA. It is possible for Republicans to be technocrats. They just haven't done it in 2 generations.
Yeah, but it's so preposterous what you're talking about right now. Because what is Theodore? Yes, look at your examples. Theodore Roosevelt, one of his like biggest accomplishment is what? Trust busting. These people want to further their trusts. They want to further monopolize and centralize power behind this accumulation of capital. And why are they pissed at people like Lena Khan and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the DOJ starting these lawsuits about monopolies? Is because they want to monopolize. So you cite Theodore Roosevelt. The people that you're trying to put in charge specifically don't want that. You cite environmental policy, both Theodore Roosevelt national parks and the EPA under Richard Nixon. These guys want to get rid of all of these environmental regulations. They are in favor of gutting the EPA. They're in favor of drilling oil from the very last.
Yeah, like why do you support Vance if he's against that?
Endangered species on the last marshland in the whole country. They don't give a fuck about the environment. They're totally in favor of.
Why the fuck is Connor nodding as if he's like some fucking bobblehead, wacky like inflatable arm tube band
of gutting any kind of regulation? That's one of the reasons why people criticize the abundance agenda, because they think that there's.
Don't nod as if you understand.
Potential collusion
when you actually don't understand
abundance libs and gutting environmental regulations, and these people who like Elon Musk have kind of signaled, we're kind of pseudo interested in abundance. Now, I don't think that is a necessary entailment of the abundance agenda, so I'm not making that proposition, but I'm just saying all of the great Republicans from a bygone era that you're citing to, they are way more similar to your average Democrat, and the technocrats, more like plutocrats, capitalists, major oligarchs that are running the country, the people that you want to put in power, because that's your vision of who is really controlling the strings of JD Vance, they're all against the shit that you just cited as like the wonderful possibility for Republicans. And of course, we're just in a whole different era when it comes to the Republican Party. It's like, it doesn't even make sense to compare the Republican Party under Theodore Roosevelt or Richard Nixon, who's coming from like California Republican and is like a liberal Republican in that sense, to the current modern Republican Party. So on every level, I think your analysis sucks.
I think Jeb and George aren't as lost as you might think they are. And by the way, they might not even be power brokers anymore. The Iraq War might have tarnished George Bush's legacy and might have tarnished his brother so much that
they hate JD Vance. They hate JD Vance.
Why JD Vance?
Because he's part of this new wave of degenerate, like, pop in their minds. This guy, who is this guy, JD Vance? He's a nobody. He comes from Appalachia. He's not part of the Bush dynasty. He's not coming from this like established, lineage of political heritage. Like George Bush is born in like New England, and they have this kind of like more elitist like cultural connections, and they're in higher society.
Yeah, JD Vance is still Silicon Valley, and isn't he Ivy League educated too? Though, like I know what you're saying.
Is. No, all I'm saying is
Appalachian roots, but I'm saying he's been.
They don't view him as part of the club. A little bit. The Bushes and these neocons who are irrelevant right now, they're irrelevant. They're totally irrelevant. They don't view JD Vance as part of the club, and they're dying, Connor. They're dying. They're not in control.
No.
Yeah, they're not gaining ground. Okay, like like for as much as I like Never Trumpers, because it shows that they are Republicans who are willing to be brave enough to back off and join the liberals in a fight against the Trumpers. And there's always going to be a place for at least like one. For at least like one Republican, right? Because former Republicans are going to listen to them more than the Democrats, right? However, at the same time, they are kind of a waste of energy, right? Because at the end of the day, like you could have a much better winning chance if you just simply focused on turning out the base of Democrats, right? To get out there and vote instead of reviving the Republican Party. You're talking about reviving a party that has always been prepping for somebody like Donald Trump to take over, okay? The George Bush was just simply a stepping stone for Donald Trump to take charge eventually, right? Let's not pretend that the Republicans are inherently evil, or are not inherently evil, because they are, okay? And I'm tired of people pretending as if the Republicans aren't inherently evil, because they are, okay? There is nothing good about the wide breadth of their policy in any way, shape, or form for the last 100 to 200 years, okay? Not like, if we don't consider the switch, all right? If we consider the switch, then let's just say conservatives in general, okay? So conservatives in general have just not been good for the United States in general, okay? Their practices and their policies have always been a state of double standards and prepping for somebody like Donald Trump to take over. Because it didn't begin with Donald Trump. It ended with Donald Trump. Republican strategists have been trying to find ways to make racist dog whistles for decades. And they do this all out into the open. They don't hide this shit. They talk about how to shape the public narrative. They have called liberals commies and leftists and radicals for years before Donald Trump. Fox News and cable TV news have always been shaping the public narrative in such a way to prep for somebody like Donald Trump to take over, right? The entertainment news business, right? So yeah, let's not pretend here. The Republicans becoming weak and fractured. No, it's by design. It is the grand design. Okay.
No, hold on. This is where I agree with you. Okay. And we should talk about this, because this is probably the most important part. I have two options from my perspective, and bear in mind, I'm irrelevant. I'm talking to 100 people in my chat. Now, my chat is very generous. They're like, holy shit, they're generous. I can't even thank them enough for how much they donate to my chat. But realistically, what I have is 60 liberals and I got 40 conservatarian libertarians, and they fucking oil because they miss sane Republicans.
Well, let's see, how much do I have? Okay, we got to compare viewer count now. 140 plus 120. That's 260. And I have oilers. Yeah, I think I'm doing well. Okay.
And you're saying sane Republicans are endangered, borderline going extinct. And I agree with you. Okay, I agree with you. But there's two options here. I'm at a crossroads. Okay. And by the way, Bill Kristol, arguably one of the people, I think I already told you what he said, which is basically, fuck it. It's a lost cause. Go to the Democratic Party, try to take over the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
But here's two options. In my opinion, the Democratic Party is actually probably the easier option, but that's almost why I think.
Okay. All right. Yes. This is what I've been looking for. Sorry. Republican dog whistle politics. God, what is this? This better be informative. What I'm looking for. By the way, I keep on talking about like Republicans trying to craft like dog whistle crafting has been a part of conservative politics for years. Okay, this is from 13 years ago. Okay, all right, let's this better be what I'm looking for.
Just shame us off the roof of Romney's car. In recent days, Romney and his surrogates have taken a hammering the president, not over jobs or the economy, but instead over his otherness.
Tom Hartman program 13 years ago. Okay, not this one. 2 minutes, right?
Elevator music from this campaign. We all have heard this. We call this, as you know, a montage. One reason so many minority voters were turned off to the Republicans may be the way leaders in the party use ethnic dog whistles against President Obama. Listen to some examples. Judge for yourself.
President Obama is the most effective food stamp president in American history.
The men and women all over America who have worked hard to build these businesses, their businesses, from the ground up, is how our economy became the envy of the world. It is the American way, and I wish this president would learn how to be an American.
People have birth certificates. He doesn't have a birth certificate. Now, he may have one, but there's something on that birth, maybe religion, maybe it says he's a Muslim, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want that, or he may not have one. But I will tell you this, if he wasn't born in this country, it's one of the great scams of all time.
These aren't exactly cheerleaders for black participation in the Republican Party, are they? Donald Trump, Mitt Romney genuflected to that guy in the campaign. Donald Trump. Judith, let JC talk. I don't know how you react to that. I want to know.
Well, Chris, on the birther thing, I think that's a losing issue.
Well, why are the Republicans pushing?
Hey, I can't speak for Republicans. You don't hear me.
I thought you wanted to chair the party.
Well, that's the reason.
Well, you're going to have to speak for these clowns.
For that reason. But you know, you have to carry baggage of Democrats that I've heard you over the years disagree with them. So I do think that there has to be a different tone.
Do you agree that these are dogs? These are signals to people we don't like black presidents? You don't think that's good? Food stamps?
The birther thing.
And he an American?
Yeah. I mean,
but the food
you
stamps,
never heard me say that, and I think it's unfair for John to paint with a broad brush and say that all Republicans agree.
What Sununu was one of their number one surrogates they were putting out.
Well, but
he was all over the place.
But Chris, I was critical of the Romney folks. They had no diversity in their campaign.
This is the average Prime Kai panel, bro.
And I was critical in 2008 because they had no diversity.
Okay, sorry, that wasn't what I was looking for, but like, dude, this is before Donald Trump, right? Like, sure, Donald Trump was like featured because the birther shit was made by Trump, right? But like, there are literally, the crafting of dog whistles is deliberate. It's purposeful. It has been happening for years. Okay, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Okay, I'll find it one day. Okay.
Somebody needs to fight for the right. So
nobody needs to fight for the right because the right has always been bad. Okay, this is my narrative. Okay, that's my narrative. That's mine. Okay, the right has always been bad. Okay,
Democrats to stop being cringe about guns.
Like this needs to stop. Whatever Connor is doing needs to stop. Okay, there has to be a further level of awakening that is not just about bringing back the old Republican Party, because it's the old Republican Party that led to Donald Trump. All right, you bring back the old Republican Party, it's going to lead up to another Donald Trump. Okay, it's as simple as that. Okay, it's simple as, right? We're not talking about bringing back the old Republican Party. Give me a break. The old Republican Party is what happened. That has happened, and it failed. It's a failed project. Donald Trump is the ultimate result of that, right?
Possible, not probable, but possible. And then get Democrats to be a little bit more economically competent and not to rub elbows with socialists and communists. No offense. Whenever I talk to you guys about this, you guys don't seem to want to give that up. You don't seem to want to give up the gun control. You don't seem to want to give up the fucking rubbing elbows. And by the way, you want me to come over and people like me to come over to your side just so I can bolster your voting block enough so you can beat the other side. It's not because you actually agree with me on the things that I talk about. It's because you just want that little bit of electoral edge in order to beat the other side. Or what's going to happen is,
which was pretty valiant for Connor to try and fight for the Republican Party he knew and change his party from within rather than join Dems. If we don't have people like him, then we'll have another Trump or worse of Fuentes type. I agree with you. Okay, we do need people like Connor. Okay, which notice that this isn't something where I'm like looking at Connor and I'm going like, well, you know, it's better if you just was a Trumper, right? Like, I wouldn't go up to Connor and say like, oh, you're doing like nothing for us, because I don't actually believe that. I believe that Connor is doing something for us, right? And people like Connor is doing something for us. But I think that it is the truth from my perspective that it is the Republican Party, and it is the Republican Party that Connor has remembered that has eventually led up to Trump, right? This isn't an accident. This isn't a freak death, right? This isn't some kind of weird shit, because after Trump was over, you can't just say, well, now we can just go back to normal. No, there is no going back to normal after Trump. There's no going back to normal after Trump. What can you do?
Donald Trump, hold on, here's the other option. Donald Trump is going to be gone. He's going to be a lame duck, and realistically, his presidency was a disaster. Compared to what MAGA was promised, compared to what Donald Trump has delivered, these are huge gaps in expectation. And so what's going to happen is, in my opinion, even within Republicans, especially if he's proven to be an effeminate,
I really need to find that original clip of Republicans, of some Republican strategists talking about crafting dog whistles. God, I need to find it. I just need to find it. Okay.
We feel like sex trafficking rapist. The
If
Donald
somebody
Trump
can find it for me,
label
that'll
and
be
power broker thing
good.
is going to be extremely damaged, and that's going to be a power vacuum. That power vacuum is going to be filled by the people
Like,
who
it's been
have the right
happening
policy, the right
since
balls,
fucking forever.
the right funding.
But that
the
ain't
right
JD
vision for
Vance.
the
But
Republican
that ain't JD
Party.
Vance.
But if you concede it to JD Vance, he automatically wins. Why would you auto concede?
I'm not conceding to JD Vance.
Yes,
I don't want to.
You're saying come over and be a Democrat.
Wait. No, that's not conceding JD Vance. That's fighting JD Vance. That's fighting. Happy birthday. Wait, is it your birthday, Connor?
It's my birthday in a few days.
Oh, happy almost birthday. I'm not conceding to JD Vance.
Oh God, another year of mental retardation.
That's what I'm telling you. I'm just having a conversation with you.
Party to JD Vance because you're saying that people like me shouldn't stay in the party and fight him.
It's lost, right?
True.
It's lost.
Right. Why? Because some fucking dude, if I could say the F slur, I would. Why? Because some billionaire New Yorker Democrat used economic populism in order to.
Like, I feel like the Never Trumpers, like, as much as we need them, as much as we need a Never Trumper, like, kind of, like, group in order to convince Trumpers, but, like, you're not, first of all, there's no convincing Trumpers, okay? That's number one, okay? Like, Trump has been going against the fucking rhinos, like, since fucking forever, okay? Like, that's also a part of it, right? Like, he's like, oh, there's nobody more despicable than rhinos. Like,
propaganda.
In addition, I feel like people like Connor are kind of in denial. Okay, I think that's what's going on. I think they're in denial. I think they're legitimately in denial, right? I don't know. Like they just feel like they're in denial.
The working class to voting Republican for the first time in a decade or in decades, because some fucking F slur who can barely say a few sentences above a middle school educational level, he came in and he skinned the party alive. That's why it's over. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Like the entirety of the United States has dealt with more existential shit than Donald Trump for the entirety of its history.
Because I think that in their mind is a version of the GOP that is awe-inspiring, that is super cool, that is super dope, and everybody looks up to them and stuff like that, right? I'm afraid that version of the GOP has pretty much never existed, okay? I think that's a version of the GOP that has never existed. You are hanging on to an idea that has never existed. You think about some kind of glorious old-time, old guard Republican that is meant to balance out the Democratic Party. I don't think that ever was a thing. I don't think that was ever a thing. There's never been a time in which Democrats throughout history, policy-wise or movement-wise, has gone too far. Never. They've always been pushing for gay rights, rights for black people, and the Republicans have always been reactionary in the sense of not trying to give black people rights, not trying to give gay people rights, not trying to do these things. They have always been the party of evil. They have always been the party of evil. Right?
You're like
Donald
the
Trump
last
is a road bump.
This glorious view of the Republican Party that is meant to police the Democratic Party is not a thing. This is not a thing. It's never something that has existed. Republicans have always resorted to horrible tactics to benefit themselves, right?
Historically.
You're like the last Japanese soldier holding out on one of these like Pacific islands.
And I'll die.
40 years,
On the island.
40 years after World War II is over, and they have to call in this like decrepit 100-year-old George Bush in his wheelchair, and he can't even speak anymore. And be like, "You're relieved of your duty."
One time, Destiny was asked about being a former Republican, and his response wasn't him changing his mind; it was him getting smarter. I think you're right. Oh yeah, that's pretty infamous.
Connor, you don't have to be a Republican anymore. Like you are fighting
right.
a war that is over.
I'm just gonna say Connor's gonna burn the Destiny Bridge within the next 6 months. I don't think so. I think Connor has always been kind of a dick suck, but you know it is
Bush
what it
relieves
is.
me of duty. You're right. When George Bush
Or sorry, he's been a good friend. Okay, whatever. I think he's been consistently retarded, and I think that's good. Okay.
goes up and he's like, "Hey man, I try to get a few billionaires together in order to back."
Post in Gen chat. What might find you the clip? Because I think that might be okay. Let me see. Dog whistle is GOP's longtime political weapon of choice. Uh-oh. The Chicago Reporter. The message of Ian Haney Lopez's book, Dog Whistle Politics, How Coded Racial Appeals Have Reinvented Racism. Just scrolling. Now, that's not a novel claim, and indeed dog whistle politics is not my phrase. It's a kind of inside the beltway phrase. Most people who recognize that this sort of coded racial appeal is an essential part of our politics fail to recognize two things that I think are crucial. That's a real contribution in my book. First, these coded racial appeals are not simply marginal or not the work of desperate politicians. So we can think about Newt Gingrich talking about Barack Obama as a food stamp president. He was censured for this sort of race baiting, but also presented as marginal and desperate. This is not just the actions of some folks who are marginal and desperate. This has been a concerted GOP strategy since 1963, and we see it no more effectively than in 2014, when the major themes of the Republican candidates were ISIS and Ebola, crossing the southern border, plus Obama's incompetence. These are all racially charged allegations. That's our first mistake. To think it's marginal, it's not marginal. There's a 50-year history here, and it's central to the GOP. Another way to see this is the GOP today draws 93-94% of its support from whites, and that thought ought to give you serious pause. In a country that's 65% white, how can it be that one of our two major political parties is essentially a party for whites? So that's one claim. Here's the other claim, and this one is more important. Race baiting is harnessed to the particular ideological vision of government, that we ought to distrust government because government coddles minorities through things like social welfare and public education. The theme is not just fear minorities, but demonize government for coddling and refusing to control minorities. And the prescribed solution, you'll recognize these: tax cuts, disinvestment in social services, and getting government out of the way of business. These are the GOP talking points that have led to levels of wealth and inequality our country hasn't seen since the Great Depression. Yes, that's right. Okay.
Act like a neocon capitalist resurgence within the Republican Party. I wasn't able to find anybody in order to back this project. You are relieved of duty. That's when I'll hang up the spurs. When George W. Bush relieves me of duty.
George Bush is a grandpa. George Bush didn't even comment on the...
Bishops, do you think it's ever too late to become a drama coverage? It's never too late to become a drama coverage. There's always going to be a market for it.
The last elections, the last thing that George Bush has done, he comments whenever there's like an assassination or something to be like, oh, you know, me and Laura are really fucking sad about shit. But he is not engaged in politics. And if he tried it would
joint statement with Obama like 3 months ago
on like political violence, not on like politics.
George Bush.
They're opening libraries. They're going to funerals. They're doing what grandpas do.
And you know what grandpas have, Pisco?
Oh, don't say this.
Tell me.
One thing I love about America is that it is the least racist country on the planet. It is the least blatantly racist country on the planet. But it is the most racist country in the most insidious way. It is under the surface, not on the surface where you can see it, where people are openly calling for genocide, but rather it is hidden behind vain phrases and statements and quotes and slogans and dog whistles. It is more secret kind of racism rather than a more blatant level of racism. But yes,
Tell me, what do they have?
Yeah, they are able to appeal to like, older people or something, and they have like organizational. They vote. Tell me what.
More
Yeah,
selfishly.
they have money.
What
I
do
don't know.
grandpas have?
Money, pensions.
Yes. They have inheritances that they want to pass down to the next generation. Absolutely.
I can't believe I'm hearing this.
Do you think George, Jeb, Barbara, I'm trying to think of other people. Do you think Paul Ryan, do you think any of the Republicans of the past, by the way, Paul Ryan has disappeared for a decade, probably because he got so fucking sick of the R-slurred stuff in the Republican Party.
He has no power. He has no power.
That?
He has no power. It wasn't fun for him to be a Republican.
You think he doesn't have millionaire or billionaire friends that are willing to back a younger generation?
They've abandoned it.
With his values?
They don't. It doesn't matter. It's over. They have to.
Most of the world is way more racist in all forms. No, wrong. No. Racism takes many forms. You're just recognizing an abundance in one form.
Have some version of Trumpism because the base just doesn't want this old style conservative anymore.
Do you know what Trumpism appeals to that it has fundamentally correct?
What?
That they never use the words wealth inequality, but they talk about wealth inequality all the time. They also talk about rapid demographic change, both the collapse of the birth rate and mass immigration. They also talk about existential technological shifts where the working class of America are being left behind. And they're appealing to and capitalize on the dissolution of the social fabric.
What's the point of this irrelevant ramble?
Sorry, go ahead.
What's the point of that irrelevant ramble? Yeah, okay. You talk to PF Young and you think that this is a genuine concern and they speak to it. What does that have to do with anything we're talking about?
That if you want to seize MAGA's power, you don't have to become all of the things that you describe about Trump that make Trump a bad guy are not why he won power.
I'm not trying to diagnose why Trump won power. I'm trying to tell you, regardless of how he did, he won and you lost and the war's over and you're not going to get George W. Bush to save you.
Do you know why?
I don't care. It is what does it matter?
No. This is exactly why. It's because the people in my political bloc were, because of generational issues, let's be real.
I get excited every time I see that hamster. That's super cute.
A martini, shaken, not stirred.
I get excited every time I see that hamster.
True. You guys should donate, just like cats. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate the $2.
Probably an ageist thing. They were asleep at the wheel when these things were happening. And they said, the economy's doing good. Who gives a shit? The economy's doing good. Who gives a shit? The economy's doing good. Who gives a shit? Whoops, we blew up the economy. That's what happened with the people that should have been dealing with these problems. And it will take philosophical conservatives and it will take philosophical liberals to address these issues.
The philosophical conservatives that got us into this mess in the first place? Who's responsible for this wealth inequality and the problems with like the economic crisis? Let me finish this. One, on terms of income inequality, that kind of shit, you can thank Reagan for that and Reaganism. You saw massive increases in wealth inequality after Reagan and Clinton's policies that you want to.
The collapse of the birth rate is a racist dog whistle as well. It's mostly white birth rate that is going down. Yeah, but then black people has never had trouble like producing children, but they never point towards that, right?
Us to return back to in that respect. I support the trade deals, to be clear, and I support free trade. I'm not talking about that. And then also deregulation, which is something else you support. Deregulation of these financial institutions when it comes to the pushing of mortgages. Even
a martini, shaken, not stirred.
I get excited every time I see that hamster.
Thank you so much for the $2 base. True.
The people who couldn't afford them. This is all problems of directly on the.
That's my hamster. You can't use the hard
old class of Republicans who fucked us for generations, and now you want to get. You're just like, we need to give power back to these people because they are going to need to solve well.
Oh my God, Pisco understands. Pisco understands. Pisco understands. Pisco understands. He understands that it is the old guard Republicans that has gotten us into this mess in the first place. Yes, he understands. Good.
Wealth inequality. Like, it's a fucking joke.
No. You're missing.
A martini, shaken, not stirred.
I get excited every time I see that hamster.
Masaki, thank you so much for the 10 Australian. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. Thank you.
Understanding. I don't want to give power back to those people. I want those people to give power to the next generation. And maybe, by the way, things change. Things obviously change.
What the fuck does that mean? Oh my God. He's so corny.
So just as an example, let's just talk about housing because you mentioned it. So the problem with housing is I'm pretty sure, I would have to look up, it's the guy with the big nipples. The guy with the big nipples co-wrote a bill in order to make mortgages more accessible.
Big nipples?
Yeah, big nipples guy. Who's big nipples? Give me a second. I think it's funny enough to look up. Representative with big nipples. Trump made
nipples?
fun of him. Rob Noor? No.
Someone says Barney Frank.
Barney Frank. Barney Frank.
This is the dankest dungeon.
Next. Thank you for the 3 months. I appreciate that.
Dodd-Frank Act.
Yeah, that was Obama. Okay. That was Obama. That's someone who Obama. You know the president you didn't vote for. You know Obama. You know the guy that that you didn't vote for that you don't like. That's Obama.
No. There was a different one. Maybe it wasn't Dodd-Frank. Frank Housing Act. I swear to God, it was Frank. He does have huge nipples. Frank Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act of '68. I don't know. Who gives a fuck? Well, let's stop talking about Dodd-Frank's or Mr. Frank's nipples. Okay.
The broader point is,
what are you talking about, mate?
Okay. All right. Go.
No, motherfucker. What kind of drugs are you on?
Talk about housing.
I'll try to be super brief about it.
Yeah.
What happened was housing was unfair. And so what they did is they secured the mortgages, they made them federally backed, and they also made them more accessible to working class people. This caused a housing boom.
A martini, shaken, not stirred.
I get excited every time I see that hamster face.
Nathan, thank you so much for the $5. You should keep it going. Thank you. What the
Where
fuck?
we were building shitloads of housing through the 2000s, and this was a large part of the economy, and people were making money hand over fist. But because it was so deregulated, they were making risky loans to plenty of people who had no business getting those loans. You could go ahead and watch whatever that movie is, The Big Short, in order to see how it went. But effectively, what ended up happening was,
bro, he is just, oh my god. This guy, Connor is not a real person, bro.
This time period, we collapsed the entire market through 2008. It was the worst financial disaster besides COVID and besides the Great Depression. And then we stopped building houses. And the financial incentives that were there because of the reckless incentivization of building houses has remained stagnant for the past 20 years. So yes, we have a problem with demography. We have a problem with population. We have a problem with affordability. But one of the problems that you solve pricing with is supply. So what arguably we need to do, I hate to say this, is we need to implode the American economy again through excess housing supply. And the federal government has the capacity to do that. So I would almost argue, hey guys.
A martini, shaken, not stirred.
I get excited every time I see that hamster.
Thank you so much for the 2 Australian. Thank you.
Did you enjoy the 2000s to 2008 housing bubble? We're doing it again because we're going to make it so average working class Americans can afford houses. And then I would straight up repeat the.
What does this have to do with Trump, man? Why does Connor always go off on these irrelevant rants about philosophy and mumbo jumbo garbage?
Financial incentives in order to get into a house. Maybe a little bit smarter this time.
Okay. I mean, you recognize that the
That's my reaction too. Okay.
A martini, shaken, not stirred.
I get excited every time I see that hamster.
Yo, thank you so much, Misaki, for the 10 Australian. Australian's up big, I guess. Thank you.
The mortgage crisis was attendant to rising prices in homes, right? And overvaluation of homes. And
but we would focus on supply.
Okay. And you want to build more homes.
Demand outstrips supply.
Great,
that doesn't mean that there wasn't a substantial.
Great, me too. I want to build more too. Great. I don't know what the fuck this has to do with fighting a lost war, number one.
We don't have to be as dumb as the previous generation. We can make new mistakes. Brand new.
What the dude, this guy is not, he's not well, okay? Connor is on some shit right now. What the fuck?
Stupid mistakes that are as glorious and retarded as the old ones, but we don't have to make the same mistakes.
Dude, this guy's just he's just like, how do I even respond to this?
I don't even think we're having a conversation right now, Connor. I don't feel that we're talking about the same thing.
You said it's lost, quit. And I'm saying, fuck you, no. That's what's happening.
I think you need to be realistic about the prospects of a J.D. Vance presidency or a...
More shall enter the fray.
I get excited every time I see that hamster. Thank you, RK, for the tier 1 sub for 3 months.
In what way does a J.D. Vance presidency empower the people you want to empower? In what sense?
Well, I mean, number one, it probably depends on what they're deregulating or whatever. But I am way less cynical about techno-futurism, techno-feudalism. I'm way less cynical about that than you are. Obviously.
What the fuck are you on about, mate?
You said these are like crab people. These are crab people. These are crab people. They want to turn parts of the country into their tech fiefdoms. Their ideology is like...
I think they'll probably create insane technologies that will revolutionize humanity. Do you understand? Hold on, real quick. Just as an example.
Dude, how do you engage with this? He doesn't want a serious discussion. This isn't a serious... Dude, this guy is not a serious person, bro. He's not like. How do you engage? I'm serious. How do you engage with this man? This guy is like a madman.
Example, because you have this thing to, and liberals in general, no offense, you have this thing where you guys just act confidently correct that everybody but you is a massive piece of shit and incapable.
No, motherfucker, you're talking about colonizing Mars and flying cars and like insane technology and shit. Bro, what the fuck? Ain't nobody talking about that. Bro, motherfucker, you're on some fucking crack or some shit, dude. You're on meth.
Of doing anything right. Do you understand?
You need to lay off the pipe.
Understand Starship? Do you understand like what Starship does? Can you tell me what Starship does briefly?
I don't even know what Starship is.
What the
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking
about. That's kind of my point. So Starship is Elon Musk's creation. It's a heavy lift, repeatable vehicle.
Oh, yeah. And it's like blowing up, right?
No.
And they funded it for like a shit ton of money, and they're like constantly behind schedule and not meeting their marks, right?
Well, number one, that's like the history of NASA. So being expensive and being behind budget is not like
it's also the history of Elon Musk, like straight up lying, Hyperloop, and the Boring Company, and we're gonna have self-driving cars. Don't worry, guys, it'll pay for itself.
Do you know what Starship's technical capacity is?
I don't have any specific technical expertise to tell you what Starship is. I think it's like a reusable. The whole notion, right? It's like a reusable thing. That's not the most I know about it.
Okay, it can. I would have to make sure. As a matter of fact, is it 300,000 pounds? I think it's 300,000 pounds.
You just want to play 40K. You just want it to be like 40K, and you want to create 40K, but you forget that 40K.
True. Oh my god, that is so true. That's so true. That's so true. He wants. Oh my god, he's such a Warhammer addict that he just wants life to be like Warhammer. But like, bro, life isn't good under Warhammer, mate. Life isn't good under Warhammer. What? You are delusional. You're actually delusional, mate. You're delusional. Life isn't Warhammer. You need to wake up. You need to wake the fuck up, mate. Okay? Life isn't Warhammer. It isn't Lego. It isn't like... people's lives are at stake, and you're like, oh, we need the God Emperor of humanity. Motherfucker, okay? Wake up to the now. Hello?
It's like the worst of all possible... Yeah, 40K is a dystopia.
No. What's the gay,
fucking
farming game that all the lefties play?
Don't use gay in the pejorative. You do this a lot.
What do you're talking about Harvest Moon, or you're talking about Stardew Valley, okay?
No, it actually might be a homosexual game. What's the game where like you
it is a homosexual game, to be fair.
Farmville. There's that's an old
Farmville.
One. Fucking.
All right, your cat knows what I'm talking
about. Terraria.
Anyways, that game. So.
Oh my god, dude, these people are not real people, dude. How could you? What the fuck,
what
bro?
The
fuck? Dude, how am I more lefty than Pisco if I know what Stardew Valley is?
My game's better.
Who gives a shit about Starship?
Well, give me a second and I'll tell you why. What is Starship's lift capacity?
Oh my god, just bro, can Connor just shut the fuck up for one moment, please? God, he is so insufferable.
I don't want to say like 30,000 tons because I think that's crazy. Oh, 150 metric tons. Okay. So I think it's 300,000 pounds and or 150 metric tons. And effectively, what that means is you can move 300,000 pounds of gear across the planet in 90 minutes. Okay? It went from Tampa to the Indian Ocean off the coast of India.
Oh, what is he on about?
In 90 minutes. It travels 17,000 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, how much did it cost? How much fuel did it use?
No idea. But at the same time, if you're talking about military technology, military capacity, if you're talking about like the lasers coming online in reference to the United States, in reference to a battleship, in reference to the C-130, there are tons of technologies that are going to be like so important to the future of the human race. And I understand like we should take care of our people. We don't disagree on that. People should have food, water, shelter, or it should be extremely cheap and available. We don't disagree on that. But you're kind of like casting out the entire like tech bro project because you don't like them on a personal level. And I think that's silly. I think that's silly.
No, fucker. We need to figure out how to get the fascists out of our fucking government, you fucking retard.
I am not. We need to have, in many respects, I'm abundance build. I think we need new inventions. I think we need to be funded. That's why, by the way,
and more infrastructure, right? We need to build the cities of the future and the trains of the future and all that bullshit.
That requires government to work.
It also, and by the way, abundance lives want deregulation and
oh my god, is Connor becoming a tech bro? Is that what's happening?
Like city infrastructure projects and state infrastructure projects.
The smart abundance libs are very tailored about which areas that they want, quicker checks and less environmental reviews and that kind of stuff. And even then, like I think we have to be more tailored and thoughtful and smart. So no doubt we need more inventions. We need to build more stuff. All that stuff is absolutely true. But that requires government to function, government to work. JD Vance trying to destroy government. These tech feudalists, they don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about any of this stuff. And before we start working about Starship, why don't we worry about the housing and energy crisis in the country now before we start spending $100 billion to move whatever bullshit thing you said from one place to another? How about we get our infrastructure to be effective with the technologies we currently have, as opposed to putting all our eggs in this basket. And again, when there's so much potential danger in elevating someone like JD Vance for the sole purpose.
I don't understand how people can like watching Connor. Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just the Lulu in some way. Maybe I'm just like out of it in some way. Okay, but I genuinely cannot see why people like watching counterpoints. It's just not. This guy is not a real person, bro. Like, I can't imagine watching him and he's going off on his schizo rants, right? He actually sounds like a schizophrenic. He unironically sounds like a schizophrenic, okay? How do you watch this person? It's not possible. It's like, it's not possible, right? Surely it's not possible. Like,
of, I guess, your technological ambitions on this assumption that it's going to lead to more technology. Remember what JD Vance is helping oversee. He's helping oversee Doge cuts and massive cuts to research in this country. He's overseeing these tariffs, which are degrowth, which are horrible. He's ideologically in favor of these kinds of tariffs. So he is not a good economic steward. He has no principles worth talking about when it comes to rule of law and constitution. And because you're like, ooh, shiny fucking Starship, Elon Musk. I can't believe you're an Elon Musk glazer. Really?
I don't like Elon Musk as a person. I think he's terrible. As a matter of fact, I think one of the things that's terrible about him is the fact that he's willing to work with a fucking pedo after finding out he's a pedo. But anyways,
and Vance isn't.
What?
No, Vance is the same. I think that they're both like indictable characters. But at the same time, if Elon Musk,
oh my god, yeah, but like you sound horrible. Like, just by the way, like I hope Connor realizes that, because it's like, no, he doesn't realize that. He's old. Like brother, okay. You're just doing the MAGA thing. You're the MAGA thing. You're doing the thing where you are saying, oh, well, Vance is a horrible person. Oh, Trump is a horrible person and he did everything wrong, but I'm still going to vote for him. You're doing the thing where you're just essentially saying, oh, well, Vance is a terrible person. I concede to everything, but I'm still going to go for him because of flying cars. I don't fucking know. Like, that's fucking retarded.
Builds a fucking starship that can travel 17,000 kilometers an hour, cross the globe within 90 minutes, and carry 150 metric tons.
Sound crazy,
that's worth
bro.
some level of respect. And by the way, you're going to need people like that for the project. And let's talk about Gavin Newsom real quick. Okay.
What the fuck? Oh,
Gavin Newsom, I'm happy he's abundance pilled, okay? And if he shuts the fuck up about guns and he's abundance pilled and that's what he hits on, then I'll probably vote for him over JD Vance. But it depends on what the left wing is doing. As an example, I am deeply fucking uncomfortable with the level to which you, Hutch, the Bulwark, Tim Miller, Kamala Harris, all these motherfuckers, I am uncomfortable to the point that you guys are willing to either glaze, socialize, normalize socialists, decommodification of basic human needs, and workers owning the means of production. I don't give a fuck if they're Democratic. They are anti-capitalist pieces of shit. And so the fact that you guys are like, we need to build a coalition between Connor, the science fiction guy who likes the free market, but he also likes individual freedom of conscience, and the Constitution of the United States, but we also need him to be okay with a fucking socialist. It's not going to happen. And if you run a socialist, or if you run somebody who's pandering to socialists, it's not going to fucking happen. Electorally, I want to punish you for that action. The same way that I electorally punished the right for
Connor, this is a Wendy's. Connor, this is a Wendy's.
Normalizing Christian nationalism.
I'm sorry, but Connor's spitting. No, he's not. He's not spitting, okay? He's like... He's not.
Nationalists.
He's just not, okay? Trust me. I'm trying to...
These guys, man. These
hold on. I want you to understand. I use Sean Piker and Nick Fuentes as or if you run it, but he also likes individual freedom of conscience, and the Constitution of the United States. But we also need him to be okay with a fucking socialist. It's not going to happen. And if you run a socialist, or if you run somebody who's pandering to socialists, it's not going to fucking happen. Electorally, I want to punish you for that action. The same way that I electorally punished the right for normalizing Christian nationalists.
These guys, man. These
Hold on. I want you to understand. I view Hassan Piker and Nick Fuentes as the same guy.
That's so funny, bro.
I view them as the same guy on opposite sides of the spectrum. That's genuine.
Like, how do you even respond to that? How do you respond to that? It's impossible.
How I view these people.
Okay. Do you view Mamdani the same as Nick Fuentes?
I view Mamdani as Hassan Piker in the closet.
So the answer is yes, therefore?
No, he has the shame to be in the closet. I view Mamdani as JD Vance.
Where is that chatter that said that Connor was spitting?
Help me out there, because you're willing to vote for JD Vance but not Mamdani.
Because JD Vance doesn't come out and say, I hate Jews. He said, as a matter of fact, he's probably like a Zio shell. And he's also not a racist. He's not like he might be an anti-black racist, but he's not an anti-Indian racist. We know that. Yeah, I view JD Vance as number one. I'll go back to the fact that I think he's a political opportunist. But to the degree that he is like a post-liberal and anti-liberal, like because he said that before in like briefings and shit. To the degree that he's a post-liberal, I think that he is infinitely more tepid than Curtis Yarvin or Nick Fuentes. He is a tepid, palatable version of an extremist ideology. I think Mamdani is a tepid, palatable version of an extremist ideology.
Of someone like Fuentes?
Yeah, Fuentes is the extreme version. Hassan Piker is the extreme version.
Mamdani is Muslim.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, that seems to be pretty counter to Christian nationalism. Mamdani is pro-gay. Mamdani is not anti-Semitic. You think he is?
Yeah, I would say that. I think that's like populist opportunism, and also Hassan Piker is all those things. What about it?
I never want to hear another thing about anti-Semitism from people who take the position that you just did. I never want to hear another word about anti-Semitism from people who are going to make a comparison as between Fuentes, who is talking about the problems of world Jewry and how it's not an Israel problem, it's a Jewish problem, and to the extent that they support Israel, they should be sent out of the country. And
compared basically, to who? Are you going to say Mamdani?
Comparing to Mamdani or Hassan. When has Hassan said something even 1% of that?
Hassan was denying the rapes on October 7, 2023 and saying that there's no evidence for them despite reading a UN report that says that we have like eyewitness testimony, we have victim testimony, we have the autopsies of people who were shot in the back of the head and had their genitals burned, and we found a bunch of women tied to various stop signs in trees with their panties pulled down under their legs and their arms tied around these objects. And he was
yeah, that's great, man. Okay, but dude, can we just go back?
Like, oh yeah, but they didn't get semen samples, so the rape didn't happen.
Okay, people who say that shit, like that you would, this quote, because I've heard this before, like the direct and circumstantial evidence point, which are really, really stupid points. There is direct evidence. Indirect evidence is only just like testimony of it, and there are people who testify to that effect. But I don't understand. So because he takes this view that these are the notion of mass as a tool of war or something. That's the claim, right? That this is like as a mass event, something like that, right? That this was a coordinated, attempted, volitional.
Yeah, he wants to say it's anecdotal.
Well, hang on a second. So you're saying that his view on that, which I don't know what he said, and I'm not here to defend people who do this kind of quibbling about direct circumstantial evidence, and I would need to have the video proof of this or that, which by the way I would consider to be circumstantial. I basically think anything that isn't like direct witness testimony is circumstantial evidence. People will say things like only direct evidence.
Why are we going back to October 7th? I'm so tired of talking about Israel versus Palestine, bro.
Evidence matters when some of the strongest evidence, DNA is circumstantial evidence. It's not direct evidence. It's circumstantial evidence. So all that shit is fucking stupid. But you're comparing that view, which has to do with like, have they proved to your satisfaction or to Hassan's satisfaction the existence of mass?
Please don't defend Hassan Pisco. Well, Pisco is. It sounds like Pisco is believes that rapes have happened on October 7th. Which, to be fair, again, if he doesn't believe that, then yeah, I mean, then he'll be fucking insane. But that's not the point of this discussion in the first place.
Coordinated as an intentional tool and strategy on October 7th, and you're saying that is comparable in terms of its anti-Semitism to Nick Fuentes' explicit anti-Semitism regarding world Jewry.
Even we could even shift it away from anti-Semitism, because I don't think I moral frog about anti-Semitism too much, because oftentimes it's like conflated with anti-Zionism. So I don't even know if I moral frog about it that much. The terrorism apologia that Hassan Piker does is repugnant enough. I don't even like. I'm really not trying to shift away from the argument. If you want a concession,
I think they're both like this.
That Nick Fuentes is a virulent anti-Semite, and that is categorically different to be an anti-Zionist. And you think that anti-Zionism is philosophically more defensible, and that Hassan Piker denying mass, but maybe making evidentiary concessions to anecdotes of that Nick Fuentes is worse in reference to anti-Semitism, I could concede that in my point.
Yeah, it's not even arguable, right? Because look at all the comments when, by the way, I'm not Jewish. I just want to say, I'm not Jewish. I was baptized in the Catholic Church. I'm Hispanic. And notwithstanding that, whenever there are people, repliers saying, shut up Jew, things like that, do I think, where are those coming from? Are the shut up Jew comments or the happy merchant memes, are they coming from the super far left communities? Most of the time, they're coming from the Groyper communities. And this guy is actually close to power
on this issue.
Well, it's not the same form. It's not the same form of anti-Semitism, right? It's like one is West anti-Semitism and one is East anti-Semitism, right? Because there is one form of anti-Semitism that is very much like the neo-Nazi anti-Semitism, right? Which is like the whole fucking happy merchant memes and oh my god, the fucking merchant class and shit like that, right? But then on the other hand, there is also there's also the Eastern version of anti-Semitism, which is the Middle Eastern version, which is like denying the pogroms and all that stuff, right? But regardless, I fucking hate the subject anyway. Okay, so I don't want to talk
close
about
to power
it.
in a way.
I feel like you're going on this issue. Right. Sorry, real quick. They're not going to say shut up Jew. They're going to say shut up Zionist. But then within the same breath or the same paragraph or the same video essay, they're going to say 80 to 90% of Jews and 98% of Jews in Israel. And
does Hassan do the Holocaust denial? No, he doesn't. He just does October 7th denial. Yeah.
80 to 90% of Jews in the diaspora are Zionists. So they're not saying all Jews because they have 20% of the diaspora population and 2% of the Israeli population that are anti-Zionist. So they're not talking about all Jews. They're just talking about 80% of the diaspora population.
Why are we talking about IVP? Okay, I don't care anymore. Okay, Republicans are a bigger threat. Okay,
Well, this is such a derail from the broader point.
I just
that
don't care.
You can take this view that JD Vance is less racist or just as racist, or like put the racism shit to the side and put the shillism thing to the side and put the technology stuff to the side on just the basic premise of ordered liberty and the Constitution and rule of law. Shouldn't that be like our guiding star? And the mere fact that you're willing to abide someone who is demonstrably proven, not just in your fantasies about Mao and your fantasies about Stalin and your fantasies about the gulags that are imminently upon us in the United States of America, but actually proven in multiple different instances that they're willing to totally disregard the rule of law. The fact that you're willing to abide these people and consider them in the future as potential votes, that can't be correct on your view that the liberty and framework of this country matter the most.
If you were so number one, I think that you classifying threat to liberty as like a decent motivator, I think that's true. I think that would actually be my calculus. My legitimate calculus would be who is the bigger threat to American liberty, and then I would actually make a calculus, like a consequentialist calculation.
In what world does that Newsom over JD Vance?
We should probably make this a totally separate discussion. But I would say that you guys just don't believe in the power of the Second Amendment. You just don't. You just don't believe in the power of the Second Amendment. What? And if you check Federalist 29, if you check Federalist 46, I would strongly recommend before we have a discussion about the Second Amendment, you should read Federalist 29 and Federalist 46.
Why do you value the Second Amendment over the First Amendment? Listen, because Vance is supporting the policies of like shipping people.
He's gonna say the First Amendment is protected by the Second Amendment. Watch.
Off because of their support for Palestine. Vance is in support of impeaching judges and removing them because they come to decisions that he doesn't agree with on the law. He has argued as recently as this year that at a certain point we have to start talking about not listening to the courts when they're ordering the president. So why is the Second Amendment getting this extra bit of counter protection than like basic First Amendment, basic rule of law, basic structure of our government? Like, you understand that the only reason that any of the rights are able to be applied is if we have a robust separation of powers. You can't raise a Second Amendment claim if you don't have access to courts that can actually stop the excesses of whatever government you're talking about. So as a starting principle,
I don't want to agree with Pisco. Is there anything wrong with agreeing with someone that you don't like? Like, there's I always see this weird thing where like people in chat or people everywhere really like they find it's like it's allergic to agree with someone you dislike, right? Like I still dislike Pisco. Like there are many parts about Pisco. Like there are so many things about Pisco that I actively do not like. Like for example, the fact that like he treats me like some kind of Voldemort kind of person, right? I don't think. Yeah, again, there's just so many reasons, including his arcs and shit like that. But like, bro, what if someone is saying a correct point, you can acknowledge that it's a correct point. Like, what the fuck, bro? Like, yeah,
you should be
it's
more
frustrating.
concerned with separation of powers, the taking of complete unilateral control by one branch, and the distortion of the framework. Right, the Bill of Rights are an afterthought. The Bill of Rights aren't ratified at the time of the framing of the Constitution. Right? It's an afterthought. It's a concession that is later implemented. What's more important to this country, even than the individual rights guaranteed by the Bill of Rights, is the framework and structure of the Constitution, which J.D. Vance, that is the structure that he's attacking. He's attacking it in terms of the checks by Congress in their appropriation powers. You talk about the Department of Education. Yeah, you think it's based, but it's a total abdication.
I don't, by the way. I don't think totally gutting the DOE is based.
Oh,
I'm saying that people in the right wing do.
Okay, but J.D. Vance is ignoring, along with the Trump administration, the commands of Congress. They're ignoring the commands of courts, and they're saying, hey, we might not even listen to it. That's a bigger threat to your Second Amendment than any legislation that a Democratic president's going to propose. Because at a bare minimum, a Democratic president who proposes that legislation, they're going to listen to the courts when they strike them down, similar to what Biden did with the student loan stuff. And so you should be much more concerned. If you're really Second Amendment pilled, you should be much more concerned about a government that's willing to ignore court orders, because how else are your Second Amendment rights going to be vindicated?
Okay. And actually, this gets to like a structural belief issue that I think.
Oh my god! Please don't make this about philosophy again. Please.
Will remain a gulf among between us, because I don't think I'm changing my opinion anytime soon. I doubt you're changing your opinion anytime soon. Okay. So what I heard, and I'm really not trying to strawman you, is you're saying that the threats to governance, procedure, the Constitution, the way our system works, that is more important than a right enshrined decades after the formation of the country? Like, weren't we under the Articles of Confederation?
No. So it was like
before the Bill of Rights.
It was very.
How long were we under the Articles of Confederation?
Yeah, the Articles of Confederation lasted for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that, maybe a decade. I'm not sure. So
I thought it was like
the Constitution was ratified
pounding like
in
a Sunday,
or 1788, and it was enforced in 1789.
Do your thing.
And so 8 years there. So
okay, sorry, but
this is all after.
This is plural, not a single.
No. This is all after. First comes the Constitution, and close in time in the first Congress, they passed the Bill of Rights and they ratify those. But what I'm trying to say is, they're just listen to Scalia on this point, because it is important. They're just words on paper. What are rights, right? Like, rights don't mean anything. They don't mean anything if they're not enforced by actors and if they're not respected. And so, in order to have First Amendment, Second Amendment, due process, all this stuff, these guarantees, it presupposes a robust structure of separation of powers.
It presupposes a social contract theory, okay? If you really want to take it to philosophy, we could, okay? But then it's like one of the most boring discussions that you could ever possibly have. I mean, to be honest, like, it doesn't have to be boring, but then it's people like Connor that make it boring, right? Like, it really doesn't have to be boring, okay? You can only have Second Amendment rights or First Amendment rights or any kind of amendment right if everybody plays by the rules, right? If everybody adheres to the Constitution, right? You can't have that if there is a party out there that is anti-Constitution, okay? That wants to interpret the Constitution and bend its will to them, right? It's not the same, okay? It's just not the same. Yeah, you can't just like whatever.
Where
there's no point in taking the Constitution seriously in any way. It might as well be words on paper, right? Because if one side is not willing to play by the rules, then what's the point?
The government is going to actually adhere to their promises on paper, and that is the foundation that someone like J.D. Vance and Trump is attacking. Maybe we're not
agreeing on this.
Okay, but that's why it's more important to protect that than it is any particular right.
Okay, let me address the Second Amendment right after what I address next. Okay.
Okay.
So you're saying that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have, and I agree, attacked the foundational social contract by which we abide. And I agree. And effectively what I view the Republic as, and what I view liberal democracy and the United States government and our society as, is, and I don't think you'll disagree with this, I think you actually just said this, that it's effectively a game, right? We're playing a social game together, and the game only functions as long as we have willing players. And the problem with the game right now is that Donald Trump, JD Vance, Steve Miller, and a whole bunch of other people are saying, we are not going to follow the rules of the game.
Wait, and not just them. Yes.
Until you force us to at the barrel of a gun / court.
And it's not just them. Peter Thiel explicitly said, like, we're in a post-constitutional era. I don't believe in democracy. I think it's stupid. These are people that you're potentially endorsing as the next set of leaders, at least better than someone like Gavin Newsom, who explicitly reject.
I wouldn't endorse Thiel, but if you also watch Thiel's interviews, because I've watched a couple of them now, he's exhausted by the DC game. He doesn't have the will to power. He doesn't have the desire to be a fascist dictator. He's actually like, in the interview with Ross Douthat, he actually says, yeah, man, I back Trump super hard. I back JD Vance super hard, but DC has frustrated me so much in how little we've been able to accomplish that I'm not even sure if I'm interested in politics anymore. I think I'm going to go back to my little fucking hovel and play with my toys.
You say that though. He still has his contracts. He still has Palantir. He still has all that stuff. But even with that said, maybe it's not Thiel. None of these people believe in the rules of the game as you've described. They all believe that those systems need to be ignored. Maybe you can abuse them to the extent that it's beneficial for you, and you can like cite them as a token thing, but they don't care about those rules. And that is the key difference between someone like Gavin Newsom and like, what's the worst thing that Gavin Newsom has done in terms of rule respecting? He didn't follow his own COVID regulation and like when to have dinner. Like, name another. What else?
Let me get to the Second Amendment part then, because this is the through line. The Second Amendment is the when people stop playing the game, private arms are how we build a new game. So eliminating private arms, the only reason why, like, and this is actually like a libertarian conservatarian perspective. The only reason why, and of course you guys, well, not the only reason why. The reason why people would be wanting to take away private arms in their entirety or regulate them to the point that they were not a factor is if they no longer wanted to play the game. And so this is one of the things.
Connor is such a LARPer.
Things that like Democrats.
He probably feels bad about never getting to shoot his gun at someone as a fucking Marine.
Frustrate the fuck out of me on is like, why are you talking about, like, for instance, Adam Schiff? Why are you talking about an assault weapons ban when you think we're on the verge of a fascist takeover? What the fuck are you talking about? Because arms is how you reset the game and play a new game. So why are you taking away that tool? That's the dumbest thing possible. And until left-wingers and liberals, because I actually think that they're to some degree like allergic to violence, until you realize that righteous violence is what makes our game work, and until you're willing to engage in righteous violence to perpetuate the game and to start a new game, God forbid it all falls apart, we are not on the same moral foundations.
So you think that the fact that people like Schiff are targeting gun rights by doing this assault weapons ban, I'll have you know who else supported assault weapons ban? Kamala Harris. But you made a calculation. You made a calculation that the threat posed. I didn't think she was going to get it through. Right. So why isn't that operative now? Why isn't that operative under proposed President Newsom? That because I'm going to
evaluate it as it comes, and ideally by having conversations with people like you. I know I only have 100 live viewers, although, like I said, they're incredibly generous. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. The goal, of course, is to be a 6-figure or maybe eventually like a 7-figure creator, right? That's the goal. The goal is to be Tucker Carlson. The goal is to be Destiny. The goal is to be Hassan Piker. The goal is to not just have internet influence, but to have conversations with real power brokers and change their minds about the way they think about the world. So with Gavin Newsom, you're just going to have to accept the fact that I think that liberals are wrong. They are incorrect in what power is and how to wield it. And so until you guys shift my way, I'm not going to say that I'm one of you. I'm not one of you.
No. That's not even what I'm asking. That's not even what I'm asking.
Bro, what is wrong?
Put aside, I know that I'm not going to convince you.
I do a pragmatic vote for Newsom.
I'm not saying that you could. Right? What I'm saying is you're not taking a vote for JD Vance off the table.
No, I'm
LARP, yes.
not.
In a way that you would take a vote for Trump off the table.
Yeah.
That is what.
It's like Gramps, it's time to go to bed. And Gramps is like, oh god.
I take to be the confusion. The confusion is thinking that
I understand the confusion because you're saying that JD Vance would have helped him do the thing that I say is the reason why I can't support Trump.
Yes, among other things and worse things. And he has worse people, like arguably worse people in his ear.
Number one, I don't think it's going to be worse people. But they have yes, these people through incompetence have killed hundreds of thousands or millions of people. Weirdly enough, that was also true of Bush. So the thing about it is like
millions of people because of Bush. What I don't understand.
Hundreds of thousands, if not millions. So in Bush through the war on terror.
I think like probably the best way to describe Connor and the problem with engaging with him is that like his head is always up in the clouds. I think that's the issue, is that his head is always up in the clouds when talking about any subject ever. He'll always find some way to relate it back to the current philosophy book that he is reading, or to any kind of philosophical teachings that he has been reading or anything like that, right? Like he'll somehow find a way to make every single subject about philosophy, when sometimes you need to be more grounded and more pragmatic about the things that you talk about, right? Like it's not just about, it's not like not everything has to be necessarily about the nature of reality, what is winning, what is government, and the foundational structure of making things, right? And the thought process that people put into making governments, right? It's not about that, right? Sometimes it really is, how do we get as many people fed by the next election cycle as much as possible? How do you get as many votes as possible by the time of the next midterms, right? How do you do X and Y? These are practical goals that are on the ground that you can achieve, right? The problem is that Connor sounds like a leftist, right? He sounds like a leftist who is doing theory, right? That is the issue. He's not a leftist, but he is doing theory, okay? He's telling you to read books when what you really need is to get people to vote, right? Instead of Connor handing you a ballot, he hands you a book. That's not what I need. I need a ballot, right? I need an attack plan on how to knock on as many doors as possible, right? Your head is up in the clouds. You're thinking like a woman.
Arguably killed hundreds of thousands of people. So my whole point is
that was unhinged.
That it's going to be an evaluative criteria. It's going to be, how far left is the left going? Does the left understand power? Is the left willing to support the Constitution, win, lose, or draw? Are they trying to attack American liberty? Do they foundationally misunderstand the country? These are all going to be questions that I'm asking myself. And then what's the potential harm of the left? And then I'll be asking, what is the potential harm of the right? And by the way, maybe I'm being naive. I'm really hoping this is the bottom. I'm really hoping this is the bottom for the right wing.
Nope.
Really hoping.
It's going to get worse before it gets better. Way worse.
You think?
You know what? Yeah, Connor, I think Connor is best described like a dumb broad. I think the best way to describe Connor is that he's a broad. I think that's the best way to describe him.
You think of Vance, sorry, real quick. If Donald Trump died, I don't even know if you believe this. If Donald Trump died tonight from a stroke, natural causes, passes out, Vance is president, you think J.D. Vance would be a worse president than Donald Trump?
Yes, easily. It's not even close. What the fuck? Are you actually out of your mind? Why are you asking this question? J.D. Vance is like number one. Like everyone was joking about how nobody wanted to attempt to assassinate like Donald Trump because everybody knew that they would get President Vance. And President Vance is much more devious, evil, and smarter than Trump, right? Like this is literally what was memed upon. Like this was the entire meme. The entire meme is that J.D. Vance is the ultimate bulletproof glass for Donald Trump, because if Donald Trump gets assassinated, President Vance would be the death of everything, right? So that's literally the entire meme, mate. What? Hello?
The only reason I think that maybe not is because he lacks the kind of zeal that Trump commands. But
that's what I said. That's
the only reason in which I would
sure
be like,
that.
Okay, I'll take just kick Trump out and let's deal with Vance.
I also think he's smarter.
But that's what I mean. I think he's more malicious. Trump is almost predictable. Trump is predictable, and he's easy to charm, and he's kind of an idiot. Vance, I think, he overinflates his intelligence. I think that he's overrated in terms of how cerebral he is or whatever. But in general, I'm not confident that this is a person who I know how they work. That I know, and to the extent that I know how they work, it's like,
As far as I know, the JD Vance's Trojan horse into the presidency was largely because he's a political opportunist. If you look at him, he shifted his ideology 2 or 3 times over the past 2 decades, depending on what was politically expedient. As far as I know, as a Trojan horse for the Tealites, his job was tech deregulation and leaving Silicon Valley alone and maybe some tax breaks. That's what I think. And Teal already got his like Palantir contracts. He already got all this kind of stuff. So my question is, that damage is done. What is on JD Vance's agenda?
The destruction of the Republic.
The what?
The destruction of the Republic. This is a comment from Duby real quick.
He explicitly wants to destroy the Republic? To what end?
Yes, motherfucker. Oh my god, bro. Oh my god, the guy. Oh my god. Wait, no, Connor even knows this. JD Vance is a Curtis Yarvin fan. Curtis Yarvin wants the destruction of the Republic. Shouldn't you know about shit like this? Hello? Yeah, that's what JD Vance wants. JD Vance wants. Yes, that's what he wants.
For what benefit?
So first off, this is what Doobie says, $50 super chat, appreciate it. Connor wants to return to post-9/11 warmongering neocon headassery. Trump isn't ideological, Vance is full-on dark enlightenment, technocratic nutbag, and he's far more intelligent. He'd do more damage. That's what Doobie says. You can respond to that or what I want to say.
Doobie, my goat.
So I think that JD Vance is interested in power. I think that he's interested in breaking apart the constraints on that power, and he's interested in accumulating more wealth and authority for himself and for his friends. That's what he's interested in. That's obviously what's motivating him, is to wear this facade for the purpose of getting more power. And him getting more power after Trump has kind of like opened Pandora's box, I think he would actually potentially have the wherewithal and dedication and patience in a way that Trump does not, to successfully destroy the remaining guardrails of the Republic.
So sorry, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm kind of hearing this. You think that it's power for power's sake?
I think it's power for the...
No, what the fuck? Who the fuck said that, motherfucker? Who the fuck said it's power for power's sake? What? Dude, just notice this. Do you guys notice how when it comes to Connor's positions, he is somehow the most nuanced, the most philosophical, the most like the most smart, the most like intelligent human being that has ever walked the face of this planet. But then when it comes to other people's positions, like they are somehow the most dumbest, the most dumbed down, the most like straw man version of their arguments. Like Connor literally cannot. Like he perceives everyone as having so much more of a simplistic view than he does, just because he reads philosophy books. It is like some of the most heinous shit I've ever seen. Ah! All right.
For the sake of power, but not just of himself, of also his friends.
It's so cringe.
And promoting this kind of like conservative vision that is a little bit more in the weeds, intelligentsia based.
Like he has Dunning-Kruger. Like yeah, I would argue that Connor definitely has Dunning-Kruger.
Folk like Curtis Yarvin, like he is a supporter and follower of Curtis Yarvin, right? I think is
talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh my God! I can't do it. No, not about Curtis Yarvin. If you guys don't know, I actually read through like his entire a letter to progressives. Curtis Yarvin's letter to progressives. I read through the entire thing on stream. Okay. All 13 chapters or 11 chapters, like the entire like fucking thing. Okay, like bro, I can't do this. Okay, with people pretending they know what they're talking about, and with any of these like fucking pseudo intellectuals. Oh my God, dude. You know what's the problem? Is that Connor thinks of himself like a Silicon Valley tech bro. He thinks of himself like a Silicon Valley tech bro. He thinks that he has the knowledge, okay, the profound vision, okay, the profound vision of one. All right. He thinks he's just so like smart. He's so much smarter than all the experts. He's so much smarter than people who have studied government and politics and everything. He's just so profound. Oh my God, you're so smart, Connor. Yes, why didn't they think of that? Connor, you're so right. Oh my God, if only everybody thought like you, Connor. Holy shit.
So this is what I've had a conversation with Yarvin, and I'm vaguely familiar through people.
I had a conversation with Yarvin. Yeah, don't mind me. I had a conversation. I actually talked to Yarvin.
Chat.
Oh my gosh.
So
please.
what I think Yarvin believes, based off of my conversation and also what I've heard of his writings, and somebody you can correct me, or somebody in chat can correct me, is effectively that there was an existent power structure within the pre-Enlightenment society, and it was relatively ordered, where you have God at the top, king beneath that, the feudal lords, all that kind of stuff, the peasant class, this, that, the other, and you had the church and you had the family. And so that social order, while, let's be real, medieval Europe was quite chaotic, it formed like the cathedral of hierarchy effectively. And what's happened in the Enlightenment era is that those things have been supplanted. Where God was, there's just a void. Nobody really specifically has to worship God. There's kind of this like moral ephemeral.
Motherfucker, nobody asked for your family history, okay? I'm sure they committed tons of incest, all right? Please, just, oh my god, who the fuck? This is like this is the most white person coded thing I've ever seen, okay? Like, Connor is a dumb broad, okay? He literally is a dumb broad. You try to engage with him on any subject and he's like, let me tell you my life story. Motherfucker, askers? Did anybody ask for your fucking life story? Did anybody ask for your family history in medieval Europe? Did anybody ask for your encyclopedia of like useless knowledge that you can never use except in the Jeopardy like round? Hello? Excuse me? We're talking about like practical issues here and how to improve people's lives. Dude, you are so annoying. Just shut the fuck up and put the fucking schizo in the asylum already. You are so annoying. You are deliberately made. You are fashioned in such a manner to piss me off on purpose, okay? You are made in such a manner to make me irritated. You are the epitome of the like philosophy bro that nobody wants to be friends with because all you talk about is philosophy that you read every single fucking day that has nothing to do. It's like, Connor, what do you want for breakfast? What do you want to order at the deli shop? Let me tell you about the philosophical musings of the sandwich. Indeed, the 2 pieces of bread that is wrapped around a fucking tomato, okay? This tomato represents us. We are enclosed around the bread, which represents the rules of society, because without the bread, the tomato would be free, and the tomato would not stay intact. Indeed, it means that without the rules of society, the tomato is unable to be enclosed and safe. This is what it means. Connor, shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! I just want to order a fucking sandwich, motherfucker! Okay, I'm gonna close the bathroom. Be right back.
At the top, there's the presidency and the secular governments, but that doesn't necessarily.
Wait, can I
offer
pause
that
right there?
structure.
I just want to pause right there because you're using the term the cathedral that Yarvin uses. My understanding is that they do view that there's a cathedral in these modern societies.
Sorry, that was an instant reaction.
That's fine. Intelligence, cunning, neoconservatism, which you could just see turn into geopolitical intelligence, constitutional loyalty, social conservatism, fiscal conservatism, national conservatism, Burkean conservatism. And of course, we could come up with like more criteria and weight them differently. However, I went through like a series of characters and I evaluated them on a scale of 1 to 10, and I added up their total numbers on a scale of 80. So,
oh shit! All right,
yeah. And so and this is kind of how, because it felt like in our previous conversation, because you were weighting them differently, I suppose, but also you thought that some categories should override other categories or whatever. We just like jumped from category to category, which I think is why the conversation was like all over the place. Whereas if you actually look at the evaluative criteria, pretty much everybody ranks in where approximately I think they would rank. So as an example, Obama is better than way better than Trump, way better than Harris, way better than Vance. But then in my evaluative criteria, Vance and Harris are competitive, but Harris is better. Weirdly enough, Newsom is better than Vance. But then I brought up how if Newsom panders to Mamdani and Hassan Piker, he could drop his scores. And I brought up how Vance could bring up his scores. And then I also did Hassan Piker, the Bush family.
Oh. God. Oh my God. This is power scaling. He's doing power scaling for politicians. He's doing power scaling discourse for politicians. You thought anime power scaling was retarded? You thought superhero power scaling was retarded? You haven't seen shit yet, bro.
Teddy Roosevelt,
Ugh.
Lincoln, Haley, who scored the highest in my opinion,
God.
autist Ron, Joe Biden. And so within this criteria stuff,
Wait, is Ron DeSantis?
Yeah.
Okay.
So within this like evaluative criteria, we could argue about like the scores that I gave people and why. But I think this is it makes
this is what you're thinking about. These are the things you're thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of makes clear the criteria through which I'm evaluating people and why I'm ranking them the way that I'm ranking them.
Okay. Okay.
I think Connor's a child. Guys, it doesn't matter. Oh my god. Guys, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether or not you've graduated college or you graduated high school. I think some people, like Stumbling said, some people just never make it out of high school. Some people legitimately never made it out of high school.
That's helping me understand. And before I tear into this a little bit, and that is always my nature, is to just like tear into stuff. And
Wait, why is Pisco rating his power scaling chart? Take that back this instant? What do you mean?
so don't take it personally.
How could you not see this and just go like true? What the fuck?
Sure. And we'll definitely get the weeds on some of this stuff because this is triggering me just looking at it a little bit.
How's this not childish?
Before I start
How's this
doing
not
that, I'm trying to recognize
childish?
myself. You're weighting all of these different attributes equally. So you someone who is 0 on Constitution, that the points for Constitution are just as much weighted as the points for Burkean conservatism or intelligence, right?
For the sake of simplicity, yeah.
Okay. All right. And cunning represents like this is how I understand it. You tell me if it's right.
Bro, I can't
As opposed to intelligence,
so stupid,
it's kind
bro.
of willingness to be ruthlessly cutthroat and pragmatic. Is that what you mean by cunning?
I would say like a combination of like charisma and political.
How will this chart help win the next election? You don't get it, okay? This is how Connor is going to convince the Republicans to rejoin his side, okay?
Maneuvering.
Okay, charisma and political maneuvering. Okay, I buy that. And social meaning social policy.
By the way, the reason Pisco probably didn't the reason why Pisco didn't challenge Connor here is most likely because he's too afraid to challenge Connor, and he's too used to Connor.
I would say that this would be social conservatism. I kind of rooted it in like conservative philosophy. Weirdly enough, being higher on the social conservative ladder might actually be bad because it's effectively like how pro-gay and how pro-minority are you, I suppose. But then I tried to like weight it back where...
You know what? I would support this chart if somebody smarter than Connor or less pedantic than Connor would go and make something like this, right? Because it's kind of like, well, you know, he's eccentric, but he's really smart. He's eccentric, but like he can actually analyze things. Motherfucker, Connor like lacks both. Okay.
They're effectively like woke.
So a 10 isn't most conservative. A 10 is like the ideal social policy, right? So 10 is like the ideal social policy, which is like your vision of what is the correct thing to do, right?
Probably the balance. Yeah.
Like if Albert Einstein made something like this, nobody would complain, right?
I guess if I probably flubbed this category on an evaluative criteria, but if I was to try to like make it as strong as I possibly could, it would be the balance between being too progressive and being too conservative.
Got it. So
can we just have a D&D game off of this? It's going to be really silly, but like I just want to see a D&D game off of this, okay? You know what? Fuck it. I'm on, okay? I want to see a D&D game where people play different presidents in a political campaign in order to win the presidency and get their policies passed. And it would depend on your stats and how much you want to level or train your stats, okay?
In other words, I don't want people to get the wrong impression. like intelligence on the intelligence score, more intelligence is better, and 10 is maximum, comparative intelligence, right? 10
Yes.
being the maximum. And but that's not necessarily the case for things like neocon and social and fiscal, where I'm assuming by fiscal you don't mean it's like the ideal fiscal policy, and social is the ideal social policy, not just necessarily 10 equals the most possible social conservatism, right?
Because I was waking up and getting caffeinated, I probably mixed some of my categories in that regard.
Problem.
So I might have like graded people on how much they actually like executed that ideal versus like whether or not they maximally fulfilled the ideology, I suppose. So I might have mixed those, but I agree with you that it would be.
You just need someone to be DM? Hell no, bro. Can you just imagine being the DM for something like that? Bro, everybody would be arguing with everybody. Like, because typically the people who are typically the DMs for, like, the kind of people who would play that kind of game are people like Connor, and I just can't imagine, like, having to moderate an entire table of Connors. Like, I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy.
Better if I picked one and stuck with it.
Unlike intelligence and cunning, which are like over your.
Do you see the D&D part of stream today? No.
Your 10 is going to be like maximum cunning, right? And intelligence is maximum intelligence, whatever reasonable maximum is. I'm not even saying that.
You know what? It's cute, okay? I'm glad that full-grown adults can still play like children.
It's
okay?
like the biological limit or anything. Well, all I'm just saying is those are ranked in terms.
That means that they can't give consent, by the way.
In terms of the greater the better.
You should watch it. Link it.
Some of these other scores aren't ranked greater the better. It's like closest proximity to ideal, right? And 10, what does it represent? The most conservative for social. It's 10 is the most ideal for social policy.
Yeah, let's roll with that. But truth be told, as an example,
Connor is definitely over 30, right? I'm not sure now.
Teddy Roosevelt with social conservatism, I put him at a 10. Which is probably not an evaluation of an ideal. That's actually probably an evaluation of the fact that compared to modern standards, he's an extreme social conservative. So I probably
these are all relative. These are all relative to
So I probably fucked that up a little bit. Where in some circumstances I was scaling them on ideal, and in some circumstances I was scaling them on adherence to ideology. So I could rework some of these numbers, but I still think just as like a conversation starter, this is. It's at least it formalizes what we should be evaluating.
I get it. And we can definitely speak more in like the concept you're trying to convey to me as opposed to the specifics here. But just so people understand who are watching, I think that what that means is you wouldn't say Teddy Roosevelt has your ideal social policy, because Teddy Roosevelt, of course, was a raging racist, right? By our standards, by those standards, right? Relatively.
Every man goes a bit insane. Yeah, they find as though they have lost their purpose. And they have to find joy in other things like Warhammer.
Progressive and modern, but our standards,
weirdly enough, weirdly.
Women hit that age at 30. Okay, that's when they realize, oh wait, society views me as a sexual object up until 30. Now I have no more purpose. I gotta go I gotta do something else now.
Weirdly enough, I would probably maybe I would like bump him down to like a 7 or something like that, because he was a raging racist, but he was also like a civic nationalist. So he might be like, oh, the black skull shape is more prone to criminality, but if they love America, they can be great Americans, So it'd be pretty racist, but it would also be like incredibly civic nationalist.
Yeah, but wouldn't civic nationalism be subsumed under nation as opposed to social?
Maybe, but then I use that category for national conservatism because effectively I'm evaluating these people under conservative criteria. And weirdly enough, Trump and Vance are 100% maxed out on national conservatism because their obsession.
Then I don't understand that.
Yeah, their obsession is maintaining American demographics. That's their obsession.
That's national conservatism, is maintaining American demographics.
Absolutely.
And you're giving benefit to Trump for that. So the fact that he wants to maintain current racial demographics and ethnic demographics, that is like a bonus. That he's considering that and trying to protect our racial and ethnic.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Where if I would have to pick one and stick with it. Where I would either have to say I'm grading these people on adherence to the ideology, or I'm grading them on ideal policy. And truth be told, because I was waking up and getting caffeinated, I think I flip-flopped between the two of them.
I just don't understand.
He woke up, got caffeinated, and this was the thing he thought of.
Okay, I get that you were caffeinated, and I'm also very. This is very interesting and fun for me to look at this. So I'm not mad that you made this. I'm just perplexed. So are you suggesting now, or are you not
Everyone's just a child on the inside, okay?
suggesting that someone who is trying to maintain the racial and ethnic demographic numbers of America, they would get a 10? Like if they were to be incredibly focused on that, they would get benefited from it under this rubric, right?
Well, and then we might
that would stand to reason that you want to maintain the ethnic and racial demographics of America right now. And that's an important point for you.
Weirdly, I would probably take, because this is something that we probably disagree on, or I think we do disagree on it. I would probably let me articulate
Answer
it.
the fucking question, Connor. Connor,
I'm thinking.
Do you get
I'm waking up.
Okay.
Give me a second. Okay, so the reason why
this is kind of cute, isn't it? They're kind of like bonding. It's cute.
Biden, Piker, and a few other people got like zeros or close to zeros on national whatever is because, in my opinion, they don't give a fuck about the border, right? They don't give a fuck about demography.
Wait, did he put 0 for Piker on all of them? That's a joke, right?
They want as many immigrants as possible, and I think that's cringe, right?
Wait, how is Hassan Piker this much worse than Trump? What the fuck?
Right?
Wait, so Trump is 42 points above Hassan Piker?
So
I'm so confused.
I'm a civic nationalist.
Okay, I have to assume that's a joke,
I'm
right?
a paperwork nationalist. I think that we should have an extreme vetting criteria
right?
where you basically should piss red, white, and blue if you're coming.
Which is race neutral and ethnicity neutral?
It's race neutral, but it's civically very selective.
Okay, then is it the case that then my question stands, which is, do people who are ideologically committed to preserving the racial and ethnic demographics of America, would they be benefited under this nation criteria?
I think they would, because if you compare it to
Hassan would arguably be worse than Trump. Yeah, because he's ideological, right?
open borders advocates, I would rate them at a 0. Whereas if you looked at Trump and Vance, let's say that because they weren't civic nationalists, I bumped them down to like a 7 or a 6 because they're kind of not fulfilling my ideal. They would still probably I'm sure Trump and Vance would still make I mean, Vance is married to a fucking Indian woman. Trump fought his own base on H-1B visas. They would probably be more aligned with, if you're a different demographic, when you come here, you have to piss red, white, and blue. So they would probably get a benefit. Well, it just might not be a maximal benefit.
I'm not saying that incidentally people who as a mere correlation that would happen. I'm asking, is the criteria?
Whenever Connor says something about Indians or anything, I'm just gonna assume he's actually being racist. Like, he's not in on the joke. He is like unironically being racist, but he thinks that this is probably an okay environment to be racist and homophobic and shit. It's just
criteria. Does it benefit policy?
That's my assumption. Okay, I'm just saying.
Whose intent are to preserve ethnic and racial demographics. You
can't blame me for that.
You seem to suggest that was what was the criteria was about, was like being very conscious of racial and ethnic lines, and that would sort of imply / entail that that's something that you view as preferable. If not, then why don't you just change that to like immigration or something, which is one of my commenters are saying.
Because I do put some weight there. So as an example, we brought. I've joked before
on race,
that,
to be clear, on race and ethnicity. Go.
Yeah. So ethnicity. I don't value that as a solitary category because.
Can I get the Discord link, please?
Every time that you try to isolate ethnicity, it kind of doesn't work. What I use in difference is like ethno-religious, and then same thing with like racial. I don't think I give a fuck about racial, right? So, but I do care about ethno-religious, and so when it comes to national conservatism, I think that we could take probably a shitload of Muslims, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, but they would need to be American civic nationalist, and they would need to be moderate in their religion. And so therefore, like, this is a screening criteria that I
What the fuck is moderate in their religion even mean? Hello? What the fuck is that supposed
care
to mean?
about. I do think that we should screen for, and I also would not want like a Muslim majority. Like if we're currently at 330 million people.
Wait, what the fuck? What the fuck?
If we had an opportunity to take
Who cares? Who cares whether or not it's going to be a Muslim majority or not? Hello? What's the real issue with that? What? Because they want Sharia law? Because they want women to be slaves? Oh, wait! That's the direction that this country is headed in right now, under a white majority. Oh.
Another 200 million Muslims into the United States, and we just had all of the infrastructure available to do it, I would say no. I would say that's a bad
it's different because it's Muslim. If that makes it
to what extent do you agree with the following statement? And then we'll get back to the rubric. It is important to me to preserve the white character of America.
Like a 3 out of 10.
Look, you somewhat agree with aspects of that America, that there should be some.
What the fuck is what does the fuck does that even mean? Like Irish, French, German?
Consideration of preserving
waffles and maple syrup.
Preserving America as a white.
Like bacon, eggs, mashed potatoes. What the fuck?
In my opinion, we should preserve it as like a plurality, a Northern European plurality.
Got it. Let's
so if we're at 30% or 40%, but the other 30% or 40% is Hispanic, which is also a European colonial project, and then if another 10 to 15% is Black and another 10 to 15% is Asian, I think we can power broker these ethno-religious tribes, and hopefully eventually we evolve past the ethno-religious tribalism.
Right. There's a super chat that they paid me to read this to you. Pisco, here's $10 to tell Connor he made a very nice list, but we're going to stop pretending to care now. I don't agree with this. I actually do care, and I want to talk about it.
Yeah, suck a dick, super chatter.
So you would actually, someone who is completely race neutral and ethnicity neutral in their policy, he's not going to be as good in the nation score as someone who is moderately interested in preserving aspects of the white character of America, correct? Someone who's totally race neutral.
You keep adding white, but yeah.
No, but you said, but you're buying. I'm putting it there. You can reject it or accept it. I'm putting it there and asking, do you accept it? And you're saying yes. So race
because I kind of accept it because I think people presume when you put like you care about the white character of the United States of America or whatever, they presume that means that you're like hostile to ethno-religious tribes or other ethno-religious or racial tribes.
I don't think it implies that, but this it is. You are stating that there's something important about our policymakers trying to preserve an aspect of the whatever you want to call white America, white character of our nation, the ethnic heritage of our nation, however you want to term that is conscious of people's racial and ethnic makeups.
Adding religion, but yeah.
Sure, we can add religion in there as one of the components. So nation has to do with like the aspects of America that are non-legal, right? It's not looking at the Constitution. Fair. You have a whole different thing for that. It's not looking at America not in view of patriotism either. It's just in view of the current people who live here or something.
Yeah, I would recommend just to wrap your head around this, and I'll tell you, but maybe you should read the Wikipedia on it. So national conservatism has kind of reared its ugly head, and a few months ago, I was arguing that there is no conservative philosophy that Donald Trump and his sycophants fall under. That's what I argued several months ago. But if you look at national conservatism, and if you check out the Wikipedia, it effectively says that they are a political bloc that is kind of obsessed with the current demographics of a nation state and think that like culture, sovereignty, religion, ethnic demographics, all that bullshit, they're kind of obsessed with maintaining and stabilizing that character And as an example, they would cite the Polish politicians in Poland. They would cite Viktor Orban out of Hungary. And I think Donald Trump also meets this criteria.
Yeah, why would you benefit someone for having this philosophy unless you agree with it?
Because I think that there's extremes of anti-border, anti-sovereignty, anti-demographic analysis. There's extremes that need to be guarded against. And so as an example,
Well, but that is irrelevant, right? Because if we are only picking these stats based off of what we view in a vacuum, right? Like, we are assuming that one stat does not affect the other. If all the stats affect the other stats in some way, then there's no point in, like, some of the numbers, right? We have to assume that in some manner, shape, or form, some of the stats are going to be different. Like, all the stats are in a vacuum, like they're inherent to the person, right? And they're separate from the other stats. If we assume that the stats like affect each other, then what's the point in having this budget? I don't know. Like, it's just, sorry, this is autism, okay? Like what I'm talking about is autism, but like.
And Trump does an ideal job at that.
No,
Trump is.
No, if we were putting,
then why does he get a 10?
Because like I said, I was waking up, and so I probably mixed fulfilling my ideal of this policy versus fulfilling the ideal of the ideology. Donald Trump is a perfect national conservative. National conservatism is just not.
He probably doesn't even know what that means.
My ideal.
But if it's not, but you understand that
I should change his score. Yes, I already said that.
Yeah. Okay.
I already said that, like, I should probably bump him down to a 5 or a 6 if we're working off of my ideal.
Okay. So so national conservative is like your ideal amount of national conservatism. And that relates to questions of immigration. You mentioned sovereignty. But it just seems very counterintuitive to neoconservatism.
It is.
You know? But so then these are like kind of diametrically opposed.
I don't think they're diametrically opposed. Just because you advocate for liberal democracy or republicanism internationally through soft power and military strength doesn't mean that you're an open borders advocate. That doesn't follow.
No. But neocons are not open borders advocates.
Right. Yeah, they're typically civic nationalists.
But neocons are like interventionists. They're universalists when it comes to rights. They are certainly less particular about preserving ethnic and whatever heritage. At least the professed ideology is more about spreading democracy, spreading liberalism. That is to say, economic liberalism.
Okay, I do.
Into our conversation, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. But anybody who listened to that conversation was probably pretty unsatisfied. And the reason why they were unsatisfied is actually because of what you said, which is like schizophrenic Goldilocks. Like, you have like 20 criteria, but we can't nail down exactly where they are. And you just are saying, like, this one's too hot, this one's too cold, this one's too hot, this one's too cold, this one's too hot, this one's too cold. But it doesn't seem to be systematized in a way that you can actually perceive things. And I think that's kind of what happens when you're kind of like vibes based. But what I'm trying to do is rather than just pull
accusing other people being
pull a PF Young and be like, well, this is just how I feel. Like that's I'm not going to do that. I'm trying to stab at systematizing it. And so the system is flawed.
But I appreciate your efforts that you're doing this and that you're trying to.
But you're just saying that there's probably better ways to do the system, and there should be DQs. There should be disqualifiers.
I don't even think that's necessarily disqualification. I just think that they should be weighed differently. That's first and foremost, and second, I just fundamentally, I think that any kind of way, any principled basis of your stated values that finds a way to put a quantitative shell around what you're talking about will, if it's rational, obviously conclude that voting for Newsom is preferable than J.D. Vance on current information. in the same way if it were Trump.
Right,
Like
but
that,
I'm.
I don't even
I'll
think
tell
it's
you what
close.
I'm doing. I'll tell you what
Yeah.
I'm doing consciously, subconsciously. I don't know. I am uncomfortable, like deeply uncomfortable with the way that the left is currently
Okay.
conducting itself, and that doesn't mean that the right isn't worse. The right. You ask me, I'll say MAGA worse, MAGA worse,
Who are
MAGA
you
worse. Hold on,
deeply?
let me finish the idea. Let me finish the
Okay.
idea. So I'm deeply uncomfortable with the way that Mamdani has been sanitized. I'm deeply uncomfortable with the way that Hassan Piker.
What is okay? All right. This is like Mamdani like delusion, like Mamdani derangement syndrome goes both ways, bro. It's either like lefties who defend Mamdani too much and thinks he's like the next like fucking messiah, or it's like righties who think that he is like the ultimate version of like the next Mao Zedong, right? Like, bro, exactly. Can you please elaborate for me how the next mayor of New York is going to be the next Mao, the next Chairman Mao, or either in a good way or a bad way? Like,
Piker has been sanitized. I'm deeply
who cares
uncomfortable
about
with the way
America?
that
I don't
liberals
fucking
and
know,
capitalist
bro.
progressives have just said, "Oh, they're just like they're
Your
just
guess
sock
is as good as
devs. They're just
mine,
like cute.
mate.
They're just uwu. They're just kawaii. Don't worry about
Oh
it."
my god, what the fuck?
And so what I'm doing is I'm reserving judgment until I take my fraction of political power and
My god,
cast
nobody
it in a
cares
vote.
about your
And
judgment.
I'm saying I am worried about these things that you are doing. I can't compel you to shift my way politically and view the world the way that I do it, but I'm just telling you, I'm not
But
signing
you're a
up for your team.
schizo.
So if you want me to sign up for your team, Gavin Newsom better stay a fucking moderate. Gavin Newsom better not become the reincarnation of Mao Zedong. He better not do a.
What part of Gavin Newsom is the reincarnation of Chairman Mao? What the fuck did... Bro, guys, this is not serious. This is not a serious political discussion, bro. This is like if you play around with politics, like how children play around with Legos, right? Like this to me is not serious talk. This isn't... You're not taking politics seriously if you talk like this, right? Like you're not actually talking about politics. You're talking about like, bro, dude, like I don't have time to indulge in childish fantasies about shit like this. Like this is such a waste of time, bro. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna read out. This is like what is the point of covering Connor? He's like he treats politics like a bunch of games that he makes no sense, and he's delusional. I've given Connor so many chances, bro. I've given Connor so many chances. You have no idea. All right. Like I'm thinking in my head, okay, all right, maybe he's finally gonna cook. Maybe he's finally gonna cook. Maybe he's finally gonna cook. And he's saying, okay, I wish Gavin Newsom wouldn't become the next Mao Zedong. Motherfucker, hello? Has he started reciting the Red Book, like during Gavin's like fucking show, or like yeah. Wait, who do I raid? Yeah, I think I'm good. Okay, I think I'm good. I like that's crazy. There's a thing about centrist mindset. You find a flaw and you're automatically Mao. Well, yeah, that's the problem with centrists, right? Being a liberal is so hard because to anyone slightly right, Newsom is Mao Zedong. Anybody further left and he's Hitler. I just don't know. Dude, he's a fucking liberal capitalist. You are delusional. Sorry. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not real. None of this discourse is real. Like none of this discourse is serious discourse. Like these guys are not taking discourse seriously. Like none of these people are actually having any kind of substantial discussion. It's just memes. It's very frustrating. Like I'm here to talk about actual politics, not like fanfic and world building. Like oh well. What can you do? Okay? It's hard being like the only adult in a room full of children. Like literally, like the way I view myself is literally I'm like the only fucking adult willing to take this. Whatever, man. It doesn't matter. Like I get it. Everything to white men is just a bunch of games and toys and Warhammer. It's just looking for the one serious discussion in my life. Okay, all right. Okay, well, you guys should join my Discord server. Okay, last time show. Okay, you guys should go to my second YouTube. It is found as Snack Markets. I release videos there. slot videos that are not for the main channel. All right, the main channel has like more edited videos. Okay, obviously. You should go and follow my kick. Okay, and I have a subreddit, but you know people don't really use it. But maybe, hey, maybe remind me, and I'll check. Okay. I have a Rumble. You guys should definitely go to my server though. Okay, it's discord.gg/foodshops. If you go to the server, okay, you'll find that I have a very chill community. You'll find an example of how chill my community can be. If you just rewind the VOD when me and Stumbling and Megu have been talking, that's just typically how the vibes are most of the time. Most of the time, it's not actually drama. It's just mainly shooting the shit and like fucking around. Yeah, it's not actually just like 24/7 intense drama. Okay, but if you do want drama, you can always find it there too. Okay. Anyway, I love you guys. And hopefully we do not cover Connor tomorrow in any way, in any kind of way. Okay. Fuck. I'll take a wick. Like I'll take a wick panel over Connor. I'll take a wick panel over Connor. I would rather cover J stuff. Okay, I love you guys. Okay, bye. Good night, farewell. See ya. Bye.